When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. Oh, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me.
Now, here's a little story I got to tell.
Yes, we are back. This is Giants Amongst Us, where we share in the unique human experience and where each and every time you're going to hear real stories told by real people just like yourself. I hope this finds you all in good spirits. I hope you guys are doing well out there. It's good to be back. It's good to have another story to share with you all. Let me know where you're tapping in from, and if this is your first time plugging into the show, know that these stories, they come from different places. They come from people that have different backgrounds. They were brought up differently. We all have our own unique struggles and history. And what we do here is we celebrate and we highlight those stories of individuals, of people who have overcome. They found a way to get past some of their struggles, to make changes, to take matters into their own hands, so to speak, become accountable and responsible for their emotions, their livelihood, and their experiences in trying to create something better for themselves now, in the here and now, presently. And the hopes with sharing these stories is that in turn, they might find somebody out there listening who's going through something similar, who's in a bad spot, who's in a dark place, and hearing these stories, hearing these different experiences in life, that might give them some type of encouragement, that might give them some type of motivation to keep on, to push through it, to figure out how to find the resources that they need so that they could apply that to their lives and change the way things are going for them. So again, everybody, thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time checking us out, I hope you find value in this show, and I hope some of these stories and experiences resonate with you where you're at and in your current situation, whatever it is you're dealing with. And to all you who have listened to past shows, who have returned to check us out each and every time there's a new episode published, appreciate you. Thank you. Welcome back. Let's kick up our feet. Let's settle in and take in this experience together, or do whatever it is you do as you let this play in the background. Because today, Jonathan joins us, and he's got a story to tell. You know, I come in contact with people in different ways, those that are interested in sharing their story and coming on the show and speaking from the heart, sometimes through email, sometimes through Reddit. Jonathan in particular, we spoke, and he shot me a message talking about his situation, having cancer twice, a bone marrow transplant, and the aftermath that he still carries, living with that. That's just a small dose of what he's going to share with us today. This conversation carried for over 2 hours, and it was still only a taste of what this man has had to endure. In and out of the hospital since 12 years old for the majority of his life, surgeries, chemotherapy, and then there was those times where he was close to death, just a body fading away, conscience, and hearing a doctor trying to persuade his mother into letting him go, taking him off life support, pulling the oxygen away, letting him go, saying there's no hope. So much pain, so much hurt, so much torment and suffering, body-wise, mentally. There is a lot that Jonathan shared with us today, and I'm sure to anybody listening to this story, it's going to hit you. So I don't want to carry this introduction for too much longer, because Jonathan does a hell of a job of being open, honest, and real with his experience. How does someone who has been through everything that he's been through in life still have some kind of hope and a positive outlook with being alive and living? For one thing, a strong, loving mother behind him. But it's not to take credit away from the man himself, who has been to hell and back, literally. but I want you all to hear this experience from the man himself. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, this is Jonathan and his story. Welcome back to the show. We've got another guest. We've got another story to share with you all. This is Giants Amongst Us, where we share in the unique human experience. And today, I'd like to welcome Jonathan to the show. You took a little bit of time out of your day to spend with us, so appreciate you. How's it going?
Hey, man. Thank you very much for having me. Like I was telling you earlier, I'm glad that we got to talk and I can get a little bit of my story out there. Hopefully we can reach somebody that, is going through some tough times and, we can help them out in some way. Absolutely.
We had a good talk before we started to record. And just to, start it off, I always like to get a little backstory of my guests. So if you mind sharing with us a little bit about where you come from and how it was for you growing up.
Perfect. Well, I'm Ecuadorian, originally from Ecuador, South America. I roughly lived there for until I was 12 years old. I moved to Canada from Ecuador when I was 12, like I mentioned. But I grew up in Ecuador with my family in, I will say, pretty nice environment of the divorced parents when I was 8 years old, but a pretty normal childhood overall, really loved by my grandparents, my family members. And moving to Canada was a huge change of pace. Things change when you move from the place you're originally from. And a lot of things changes. The way you conduct yourself, the way you manage your family and your friends. But overall, I think my childhood was perfect, if I would say. I loved my childhood, and like I said, I was loved by my family quite a bit. And yeah, overall, beautiful childhood.
What made you guys decide to leave Ecuador and go to Canada?
My mom, after she got divorced, she got an opportunity to come here and to come to Toronto to try things out. It wasn't out of necessity or anything of the sort. My mom had a really good job back home, and she just thought that maybe it'll be a better future for us if we just try a different country. And we came to Canada. We lived here for roughly 5 months. And at first, we just didn't like it. We really didn't like it. It was a huge change. We came from, I wouldn't say a super hot and hot part of the country, but we weren't accustomed to the cold. We arrived here in July, and like I said, we stayed for 5 months, so we really got to see the cold part of Canada, and that really drove us out. We didn't think we could make it, and there were some also family issues at the time that we just decided this isn't for us, and then we moved back home, and things started to go wrong right after that.
After you went back home to Ecuador, things started to go wrong?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, family issues.
Not really family issues. There was some family issues because I did have some family here in Toronto before we moved here.
Okay.
I don't know. Things change when you live with somebody, and personalities meet, and you just don't connect as you think you were going to connect with family. And we just decided not to make the situation worse and just go back to our regular lives, and that's it. This wasn't for us. There wasn't a better future like we hoped. My mom also got a better job back home, a better offer, so we just thought there's nothing here for us. Let's just go back.
How long did that return back home last before you guys ended up going back to Canada?
I want to say roughly 4 to 5 months. Unfortunately, when we went back, we started adjusting to life back home. I was going to high school at that time, and everything was going fine. But at some point, I started getting really, really tired for some reason. really, really, really tired. And it wasn't like I was doing anything out of the ordinary or doing more exercises or anything. I was just tired overall. But my family just thought it was, maybe I'm making it up because I don't want to go to school or something. But as time progressed, I started getting significantly worse. I started to get this awful pain in my close to my liver area. It was just painful, really, really painful. And then I got a little bit of jaundice, which is just like a yellowing of your skin a little bit in your eyes. And my mom took me to the doctor because, you get yellow skin. There's definitely something abnormal going on. So we went to the doctor, and they thought that at that point maybe I had hepatitis, because back home
Mm-hmm.
it isn't as terrible as it is now, but we never been a technologically advanced nation back home. If you need medicine or things that are a little bit more technological, at that time you had to pay in order to get them, because there's no free healthcare back home. And in order for you to access those medications or treatments, you have to pay for them, as in the majority of the South American countries. They thought it was hepatitis, so they treated it as such. And I guess the treatment was giving me some fluids through IV, and maybe they thought that that would make me better. But for some reason, I wasn't getting any better. I was getting more tired. I was running out of air as I was walking. I got a small ball growing in the middle of my hand, and my mom at that time just tried to go to different doctors to find what the hell is going on. Because if you see your child, he's a healthy kid that's never been sick or anything, or had the flu for that matter, and then all of a sudden he is bedridden. He's out of breath, and he's not doing anything out of the ordinary. So we went to different doctors and to see what was going on. We met a surgeon that told us that ball was probably just like a ball of mass that just needed to be removed. So he did remove it, but he didn't send it for a biopsy or anything of the sort. So probably we should have asked for it, but at that time we didn't have any knowledge of this sort of medical terms or medical procedures.
Yeah.
So I wasn't getting after the ball of mass was removed. I still wasn't feeling better. I was still tired. I wasn't able to sleep anymore, not regularly. I was sweating crazy, a lot of sweat, high fevers, and my mom had to take me to different hospitals, different clinics to find out what the hell was going on. And I went to nature doctors. I don't know what the specific term for them for those people are. He told my mom that I needed some vitamins, and he got a syringe, and then he gave me the shots on my forehead. He gave me 3 shots of whatever substance that was. And maybe that thought my mom just was, she was desperate. She was super desperate.
Yeah. Trying
anything that would make me feel like better. Anything would work. So we went to, like I said, a herbologist, I think it was called. So we went to acupuncture to see, because I also started getting a lot of muscle pain, in different areas of my body. At first it was the legs, then it was my back, and pain was unbearable. So my mom just took me to an acupuncturist, and he's like, yeah, we can take care of him, and he'll be better in a few weeks. So we tried that, and the whole thing, it didn't help out. And at this point, I was in really bad shape. I lost a lot of weight. My hair was falling out. So we just didn't know what was going on. So we finally went to a clinic. And this doctor, I think he knew my family, so he just straight up told my mom, I think your son has a really bad case of anemia. I think it could be it's called a plastic anemia, something that needs to be treated urgently, and we just don't have the equipment here. You need to go to, because we're not from the capital city of Ecuador. We're like a city away from the capital city. He told us, go to the capital city in Quito in Ecuador and go to the Red Cross and ask them to do all the tests. So my mom, quit her job because she needed to take care of me. Money wasn't coming in. My family had to help out quite a bit because, like I mentioned, those things are not cheap. Back home, as you can get treated, sure, for minor things, but when you're dealing with something that they haven't seen before, or it gets really, really expensive really quickly. So we went to the capital city, and the Red Cross, they did a few blood tests, and they still couldn't find out what the hell it was. So they kept us at the Red Cross for like a week doing all sorts of tests. So we finally ended up meeting an oncologist back home in the capital city. And he straight up told my mom, listen, we need to do a lumbar puncture, which is, they take a blood sample from your bone marrow. It's either in your chest, in the middle of your chest, or on your back, on your lower back, where the tramp stamps usually are.
Yeah.
So that's usually where they make the lumbar punctures. They take the blood sample from your bone marrow. And he said to her, it's either the anemia that I was telling you about, or they told you about, or it's leukemia. It's blood cancer. Those are your two options. There's no other explanation of why this is happening.
Man.
Yeah, so at that point, we couldn't stay in the capital city any longer because we needed to go back home. My mom needed to work and get some money for the treatments and such. So we found an oncologist in my home city, and he was able to do the lumbar puncture, but he didn't have the equipment, or just didn't have the complete knowledge of it. Usually, a lumbar puncture is done with anesthetics, so they usually put you to sleep for it because it's a really painful procedure. And this guy just didn't know how to do it. He did know how to do it, but just didn't have the equipment. I think that he didn't have the equipment. So he took, I want to say, a huge needle. The biggest I've ever seen is probably like 4 to 5 centimeters. That's how big the needle was. And he stuck it right in the middle of my chest.
Wow.
And he started pulling when the needle goes in and they start pulling to get the blood out.
Yeah.
Whenever you get blood tests and stuff like that, right? But he needed to get it from the bone marrow, so he stuck it right in the middle of my chest. He starts pulling so that he can get the blood out, and I never experienced such a painful procedure in my life. It felt like he was ripping out my rib cage, like I thought that my rib cage was gonna come out. That's how painful that thing was. And he needed to get all that blood so he can test it, right? And it's hard, it's difficult to get a bone marrow sample from your chest, especially when the patient is awake and without any anesthetic. So he just kept on doing it, and at the end of the day, fine, he was able to do it. He sent it in, and we waited probably a week, and the test came back, and surprise, surprise, it was cancer. I had leukemia.
Wow. And so how old were you? You said 12 was when you started experiencing the fatigue and everything, but how old were you around that time?
Yeah, I think I was almost 13 because I was 12 when we got to Canada. We spent there 5 months, and then we came back home, and it was just a span of 4 to 6 months. And the span of 4 to 6 months, all the stuff that I described to you, that's what happened in that small amount of time. So I was almost 13. It's still 12. And that's when my mom, we all became aware of what
Wow.
leukemia was. We didn't know. It was such a new term. We didn't know anybody that had leukemia before, or had cancer for that matter. So it was a huge shock for me, for my mom, for my family. And, since the diagnosis, I was still feeling sick. So this was just a test. There was nothing being done aside from giving me like fluids or something, but I was still feeling really sick. So at this point, the doctor just told my mom we need to start chemotherapy. And at that time, he's like, it's gonna cost roughly between $10,000 and $20,000. And back home, we have a U.S. currency and $10,000 to $20,000. It's a lot of money. Even for me right now, $10,000 to $20,000 is a lot of money. So my mom didn't have that amount at that time. We did have our house, so what my mom did is she sold our house and got as much money as she possibly could and paid for the treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And for, I want to say roughly 1 month, I got chemotherapy back home. And I think it was one of the worst experiences I ever had to go through. Because chemotherapy, it's the way that I was treated back home to the way that I was treated when I came back to Canada, it's day and night. The way they do the medications, the way that they diagnose things, it's day and night. There's not even a comparison. So after usually, well, I'll talk a bit more about it later. But in that first round of chemotherapy, I was super, super sick because, of course, it's chemotherapy. But the way that it was given to me, it wasn't the correct way that it was supposed to be given. There was a lot of gaps of how the treatment was supposed to be given. So the side effects of the leukemia at that time, of the chemotherapy at that time, was just awful. I never had to go through anything like that. My gums started to bleed. Of course, I lost my hair because chemotherapy. And I distinctly remember this because usually, because you still have to pay for the clinic, right? Because it's not cheap to be in the hospital for such a long time. So after my round of chemotherapy, they decided to send me home. Usually, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to stay at the hospital and be treated there for anything that could happen. But anyways, they sent me home because it was getting super expensive, and on top of that, people just wanted to make money out of my mom because they saw that she sold her house, or they were charging her everything extra for everything at that time. So I was sent home. I was staying with my family because we didn't have a house anymore, so we had to stay with my grandmother and my aunt. And one night I had to pee, but I couldn't. I was so weak that I couldn't get up. So I had to get my uncle and my cousins to help me get up so they can take me to the bathroom, but I couldn't get to the bathroom. So they just brought me like something that I can pee on. And this thing still haunts me. I peed, and as soon as the first the little bit of liquid that came out, it was clumps of blood. So when you're bleeding from your nose and the blood dries out and you have that clump of coagulated blood. So imagine just urinating clumps of blood, and it just scared the hell out of me. It scared the hell out of everybody in the house. My mom started to research like where to take me because back home things aren't getting any better. We're running out of money. We needed to find a way to get a better treatment because doctors at that time were telling my mother, "Listen, lady, you're either gonna run out of money, and your son is he's gonna die. So just make up your mind, because he's gonna die regardless of what you do.
Wow. You had just been released from the hospital. How many days right after chemotherapy? Was it the very next day they sent you home?
I want to say 1 or 2 days, if no more than that.
Wow.
Right after chemotherapy, which is, you need to be like the most careful, because you're the weakest at that point.
Critical care right there.
Exactly. So they send me back home.
Now I know you just because I'd like to get an idea like where your head was at, because I know I can't even imagine the things you were going through physically, your hair falling out, your gums bleeding, the fatigue, the body aches, everything that you're going through physically, and at such a young age. I mean, the tender age of 13, that's when most kids are outside, they're active, soccer, football, whatever it is. They're out there playing with their friends. What were you going through emotionally at that age? Were you thinking already about the worst case scenario so young, like I might not even be alive in a few months? Or how was your mental space at that time?
At that time, there was some gaps between, because I forgotten. There's a term called chemotherapy brain, which is you miss a lot of your memories because of the chemotherapy that you've been given. But in any case, I do remember some of the stuff that I was feeling back then. I was just ready to die. That's the best way to describe it. I was set on dying. I didn't think I was gonna make it, and I was so tired. Like, I never felt that tired before in my life. Like you said, I was a kid. I was not even 6 months ago. I was playing soccer with my friends. I was fucking jumping up and down. But at this point, I couldn't even get up. I didn't even have the strength to get up.
How you said you were ready to die, was it because you already had, your body wise, you've been through so much? Was it as if you felt like you were just ready to be relieved of all this pain, and I'd rather end it than continue to go through like this?
Yeah, the first thought was that, this is gonna be that is gonna be better than this. And listening to the doctor, not only one doctor, various doctors tell my mom, your son's gonna die. Whatever you do, he's gonna die. He's not gonna survive.
They're telling your mother this in front of you?
Oh, in front of me, yeah.
Oh my God. What is that going to do to a child's spirit, motivation, and just will to even feel as if there's any hope?
And at that time, when I went in for chemotherapy, there was another patient that was roughly a little bit older than me, but his family was he had a little bit less money than we did. So we went in to have the same treatment at the same time. But I'll tell you how that ended. But for now, let's just say he was there at the same time. He didn't have the amount of money that we had at that point, so his treatment was even worse than mine.
Wow.
He didn't have, nurses didn't even take care of him. It was awful. Just seeing him, just a couple of years older than me. He had to be 15, 16. And just seeing him being treated even worse than I was, it was just awful. And like I said, at that time, my parents were divorced, and I was living with my mom. My dad was, before I got sick, still in my life, but not a lot, not really present, but there. But there was a point in all of this that he got remarried and started a new family, and my mom had a conversation with him. They thought I was sleeping, but I was still listening to it. And my mom was just begging him, telling him, please, let's take our son and get him treatment somewhere else. I need your help. Please, let's take our child and go somewhere else, because he's gonna die here. And my father's response at that time was, I can't do it. I have another family now. It's your son, so you do what you need to do. Yeah, I think that was worse than everything at that point. Because when I was growing up, I loved my dad as much as I loved my mother. He was there present. After the divorce, I wasn't. He was there, but not really present. But still, I still loved my father at that point. But listening to his words, saying he is your son, you do what you gotta do. I have another family. That hurt more than anything at that point.
Man, there was something in there, something going on. I mean, your mother sounds like a strong woman who had unconditional love, and she was willing to go to the grave with you, it seems, to try to help you and find some kind of assistance. But for you to be going through everything you were going through physically, and then on top of that, psychologically and emotionally, hearing the doctors write you off saying, things aren't going to get any better, and you're hearing it from one doctor, you're hearing it from another, and then on top of that, your father, to hear these words from him. I mean, that's like one blow after the other, and it's a wonder that that didn't just kill the will for you to want to even try to fight and hold on to whatever little strength you had, because I'm sure, in those kind of situations, I could only imagine, the human spirit can just let out and say, and just give. But there had to be something that was still pushing, holding on, fighting to stay alive, and to see if there's some way that you can recover eventually.
You know what? Until this day, the major reason why I was able to do all of this and go through everything is my mom. There's no other explanation. Seeing how much she was hurt, that I couldn't handle that. More, I think, even more than the thing that my dad said. Seeing my mom suffer, I couldn't handle that. I needed to keep at it because my mom, she's in my bed beside me, and she's praying every day and just whispering when she thinks I'm asleep, please don't leave me alone.
Were you the only child? I don't know if you mentioned it.
Only child. Yeah, only child.
That's the love that they say only a mother can have and hold, and like from you explaining everything that you explained, and let alone everything that you were going through, but all that your mother was trying to do, putting the house up for sale, whether it's putting money into your recovery, into some kind of assistance, but then also emotionally there, offering her prayers to see some kind of healing or recovery, and then just being by your side through it all, losing her job, giving up her career, and everything that she had going on, because you were priority. You were more important than anything else in her life, and she was holding on, and if you didn't have the strength at that time, but you did have to have something to want to hold on, and you said it was your mother, but she sounds like she was a lioness, protecting her cub, and she wasn't gonna let you go alone.
Man, that woman is so strong. Because I'm the patient, I'm the one that goes through the pain, but she is right next to me and she doesn't know what to do. She is not able to help. She is seeing her kid suffering, and physically there's nothing she can do. So she's suffering way more than I am. Because mine is just, physical pain. Her pain of not being able to help. That is something that just, she was able to fight. She was able to keep at it for so long, and still to this day, there's only love and thankfulness for my mom. I wouldn't be here without her.
That's a beautiful relationship to have, and then also that you see, you were there even when she didn't think you were able to hear. you were able to hear all of it, and also not just hear it, but you're able to feel it deep down in your soul and in your spirit. And even with your father
And
not wanting to be a part of this, your mother, I guess she was the reason why you ended up going back to Canada to get help over there, medically.
exactly, yeah. At that point, my mom, in her research, she found out that in Spain they had a really good leukemia program or cancer treatments for children at that time. I guess my mom, in her suffering, forgot that we had a permanent residency here in Canada. She totally forgot about that, and one of her friends told her, "Laura, you have a permanent residency. You have one of the best countries in the world right at your hand. Not a lot of people have that option. Take your kid and go back to Canada. You're gonna find the help you need there." And like I said, I think she just forgot about it, and at that point, seeing like how this isn't getting any better, how everything is going wrong, she decides, let's go back home. I mean, let's go back to Canada. It's now my home, right? I treat it as my home. Let's go back home. Let's go back to Canada. So we tried to get everything ready to come back home. She bought the plane tickets. We're all set. She's pushing me in a wheelchair, and as we're getting into the airport, there comes this, I want to say, security and the doctor at the airport. There's a doctor there, and he sees me that my mom is pushing me, and that I'm not really there. I'm like, my head is somewhere else. I'm so weak and beaten down that it was just like she was pushing a corpse. And that guy comes and tells her, "What are you doing? You can't take your kid. You can't take him when he's like that. We're gonna do some tests. We're gonna do some blood work, and if he matches, I'll let you go. But I don't think he will." So they did the blood work because they have to check your platelets and your red blood cells for you to be able to make it on the flight. And for some reason, they just decided that I was not able to leave. The blood work didn't match, so they didn't want to make me get into a plane. So at that point, we're losing hope, and things are getting worse. I'm feeling worse and worse. So my mom goes to the doctor that told us that I needed to get the lumbar puncture. We went to that guy, and he tells my mom, "You need to give your son this medication that will help with his blood work. Is not faking it, but it will give you the boost in his blood cells that will allow him to travel, but it's gonna cost you $10,000 a shot, and he needs two." And so at that point, we're losing hope. My grandmother is just taking money out of her bank accounts, and my family are helping out, and we're able to pay it, and my mom pays for those shots. They gave me the shots. We had to buy another flight for the following day, and they did the blood work, and I matched. I was able to get into the plane. That's all we needed at that time.
How long is that flight?
At that point, like not right now, it's between, I think, 8 hours between, because there's no direct flight. That's another thing. There's no direct flight between Ecuador and Canada. So we either have to go through Colombia first and then Toronto, or you have to go through Miami and then Toronto. At that point, because we did the changes so suddenly, we got a flight that was close to 20 hours.
Oh my God.
We had to go to Peru, and then from Peru to Venezuela, and then from there to Toronto. And you can only imagine that I'm dying in the flight. Like I'm dying. I'm physically dying. I'm out there. I'm not even present there. My mom is just giving me water, and I don't think I'm able to speak at this point. I'm out. I'm completely out. I'm just shriveled out in a wheelchair. I'm just waiting.
Were you able to at least see or hear what's going on? Or I don't even know if you can go back to that and take us through if you were able to. Was it blurry, foggy, anything like that?
At that time, right now there's patches missing of what was going on. But it was, imagine if you went running like a 20-kilometer marathon and then they tell you to go up 20 flights of stairs and then they tell you to, I don't know, do 20 push-ups.
Oh, you're completely exhausted. There's no energy, no life. There's no fuel. The gas tank is just completely on empty.
At that point, there's not even enough oxygen. I think we also had to buy oxygen from the airplane because I wasn't getting enough.
That's why I was going to ask you. I wonder why, because of the doctor saying that you had to get cleared medically, is because of your condition, that they thought that you were going to be a risk in the air, and that you probably wouldn't have made it because the altitude or the pressure, and you would have died
Exactly.
on the plane.
Yeah, the thing is that since the airplane is pressurized nowadays, well, it's still pressurized. You don't really feel the altitude in a regular person, but a person that's going on through all this will feel it and might pass out and go into there's something in the brain. There's something happens in the brain when there's not enough oxygen, and you can't go back. Like the plane, once it's in the air, you have to go to the destination. The plane can't go back, especially in the middle of
Yeah.
the flight. That's why they have to approve you.
And I guess they probably also were trying to protect themselves, because then the family could maybe sue and say, "Why did you allow this child to get on the plane in his condition? You guys are to blame for it." Maybe I don't know. There's a lot of things that.
Back home, there's no such thing. But there is suing people, but back then, it was just a matter of them being assholes. I think they just didn't want because also you pay for those tests that they give you. You have to pay the doctor for it in order to see him. So even if they come out to you, you have to still pay them. So it's they're taking advantage of my mom. They're also taking. I understand that there was an issue of me flying, but they could have been things. We could have done something to protect me. They could have sent me with oxygen. There's a million things that we could have done at that time, but they were just taking advantage of my mom at that point.
It sounds like you had every stumbling block in front of you to get to your destination so you can finally get help.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like I said, I was out. I only have the memory of being in a wheelchair in Venezuela at that time, getting some water, and I was telling her, "Mom, just can you get me a Coke because I want something sweet." And she's like, "No, we're almost there, so just sleep for a little bit." And I don't remember how the other flights was. I don't even know how I got from the airport here in Toronto to Sick Kids Hospital here in downtown Toronto. Because from downtown Toronto to the airport is close to almost an hour of driving. So I don't know how I got from the airport when I arrived here in Canada to the hospital. I have no clue how that happened. I think my mom told me they had an ambulance already prepared on the flight, that they had spoken to the airport people in Toronto and told them that there's this patient that's not well and please be prepared for the wards or something like that. So I still don't know how that happened. I think my mom told me it was just we got into an ambulance basically. And what I remember from that point into getting into the hospital for sick children was me waking up. I didn't speak English that well at that point, so I couldn't understand most of the things that they were asking me. And I remember seeing some doctors asking my mom what's going on with me, or if she had the diagnosis from the doctors or something like that. And then I went back to sleep. And I woke up in the hospital for sick children. I already had my own room. And the first thing, I think it was just like, it felt like your life was given, like your soul just returned to your body. It felt like that because I was able to wake up and stand up from my bed. I wasn't able to do that before I got to Canada. So I don't know what the doctors did between that point and me waking up. I don't know how my mom got me there. I don't know what she did. I don't know what they talked about. I have no clue. All I know is I woke up, I went into the bathroom. There's a huge mirror. There's a little bit of a pain right in my collarbone. And when I remove the shirt that I was wearing, I see there's it's called a catheter, which is
Uh-huh.
it's something that they usually give cancer patients. It's like let's just call it like a tube that
Like
goes
a tube
from
that they feed you, right? Or they
exact. It's
okay.
basically, this is used for treatments, for blood work, for transfusions, for chemotherapy, and it's a tube that goes from your jugular, from that huge vein that we have in our necks, and it's under the skin, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
goes right into the, almost like, I want to say 3 millimeters down from your collarbone, and there's two IVs that come out of that tube. That's where they put all the medications and all those sorts. So seeing that for the first time in my life, I was shitless. Because I don't know what that thing is. I've never seen it in my life. I haven't heard of it. I don't know what it was. And all I see is it's protruding out of my skin. It's like one of those movies that the thing goes inside the skin, and then you see it, and you see the bulge of the whatever thing's inside. It's seeing that. It's seeing a tube in your neck for the first time. And like I said, I was 13, and I had no idea what the hell that is. And it was just crazy to see that that thing is coming out of my body and it's inside, and I'm in this completely different place that I never seen, and I don't know what the hell is going on. And after, I don't know what happened after that. I think I went back to sleep, and I finally was treated for the leukemia I had here in Canada. They were able to, do all the blood work, see what type of leukemia it was, what kind of treatment they needed to give me. They gave my mom a translator. We were given, like, I'm so thankful for Canada. I will never have enough words to thank Canada for everything they've done for me and for my mom. I'll forever be grateful for everything they've done until this point.
So when you woke up and you came out of this state of just being a corpse, like you said, being pushed around and you have no strength, you have no energy, you can't feed yourself, you can't speak, any of that. And then waking up and seeing these tubes running in and out of your body and not understanding what's going on. I'm sure in the beginning you probably, or maybe you did realize, like, I'm not even in Ecuador anymore. I'm somewhere else, but probably not, putting it together like I'm back in Canada.
I knew we were coming back home because, like I said, no,
Okay.
I knew that we were coming back from Ecuador. I was aware of that. I wasn't aware of where I was. I didn't know I was at the hospital. I didn't know what hospital it was. At that time, I didn't even know where the hospital was located because I only lived in Canada for 5 months, and I only lived in Canada, not down. I lived downtown. I lived in downtown for my entire life here in Canada. But when I first moved here, I was in a, like, far from where I live and where all the hospitals are. So I have no clue. All I see is I'm connected to this too. My mom is nowhere to be seen, and I'm just there in this room that's really nice. I gotta say, it's completely different from back home, of course. It's my own room. It's super clean. I'm on a really, I want to say comfortable bed, but okay, let's just say comfortable bed, and I'm me again. I'm back to me. Like, I'm no longer as tired as I was. There's oxygen going through my head. I'm thinking. That's the best thing that I could put it in words. I am thinking again, because that when I was doing all this traveling, I wasn't thinking. There's no sense of thought. You're not aware. It's like you're out.
Yeah. All of this, all of the treatment and everything you were going through at the time, how long were you in the hospital when when you got to the point where you started to recover a lot better than where you were initially when you first got there?
So from when I got to the hospital for sick children, it was the treatment of chemotherapy and all that I had to go through was, I guess, 5 to 6 months straight living in the hospital.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's 5 to 6 months living straight in the hospital. Of course, we had nowhere to live. So in the hospital for sick children, there's your room, your private room. You have the patient's bed, but on the side it's like a couch that turns into a bed for the patients, caregivers that have nowhere to go or that want to be with their children. Right? It's a hospital for sick children, so they try to keep the parents
Hmm.
as comfortable as they can.
So your mother was by you the whole time.
My mom slept right there with me every single day. Like, we had nowhere to live, right? So not like we had somewhere to go. We had nothing. And we came here with like a set of clothes, three sets of clothes, for my mom, and the hospital just helped us out with everything at that point. Since we didn't have anywhere to live, there's a McDonald's has a, I don't want to call it a hotel. It's something that it's called the Ronald McDonald House. It's a building for parents of patients that live out of Toronto and have nowhere to stay or don't have the economical means to live in Toronto at that time. It's like a charity the McDonald's has for that specific hospital. So my mom, from time to time, was living in there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful building. It's like a hotel. It's like a 5-star hotel. But you're not allowed to stay there for more than the time that you need, because there's always people coming in, right? And there's always a lot of patients, and you don't want to take away from somebody
Yeah,
else that needs
yeah,
it, right?
understand. Exactly. You were there for 5 to 6 months, and during that time, I'm curious. During your recovery, the treatment, you getting well, your mother being by your side, you guys have nowhere to stay, and of course, you're not even in a condition to get up and move around and do for yourself. What were the conversations like with your mother during that time? Was she feeding you encouragement, or you're looking better, mijo, or how was that
It's
between you
exactly
and your
that.
mother, the relationship and the bond or the conversations that you had during that time?
The first few months was on every day. My mom is there all the time. She is, because we don't know anything, right? We don't speak English that well. So we're together. My mom,
You have each other.
we have each other. We're just sleeping. My mom is sleeping in my bed with me, holding me, because she is so scared. And the nurses came to be. I came to be known for to the nurses as the patient that has his mom sleeping on the bed with him. Because he's 13 and he still has his mom sleeping with him in the same bed. I didn't care, because then my mom, and she's scared. She doesn't know anything. I don't know anything. So we're just holding each other and try to, live every day. And we don't know if I'm getting out of here. And we don't know what's going to happen when I get out, because we don't have anything. So it's just both of us. And we're in the first few months, we're talking and getting used to the language. um, eating there because the hospital at the food at the hospital it's not bad at the hospital for sick children. They had they give you like a menu, like a menu card,
Okay,
and
you get to pick what you want.
you had to circle that. Yeah, you could pick. And back home, when you're sick, they're really restrictive with the amount of whatever you gotta eat. So they say no pizza, no French fries, nothing like that. It's such a weird thing for them to do. So you're not allowed to eat anything. You're just giving like vegetables and things like that because they're really stupid in that way. So when we came here, we saw the menu that had pizza, ice cream, and all those types of things. And my mom is like, "Are you allowed to eat this? Like, is this good for you?" I'm like, "I don't know, mom. It's what the menu says. I'm just circling whatever I find,
Mm-hmm.
whatever I can read, and whatever I think it sounds good." And in between that stay, the hospital may change the way that they did the menu. So they made an entirely new system, which was amazing. They gave you like a full menu, card menu, like in a restaurant, and you could call in between the times of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You had a timeline between, the times where you get breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? And you could call them and tell them, I want this, and this from the food. And the variety was amazing. Like I said, there's pizza in there, there's spaghetti, there's anything a kid could want, hot dogs, hamburgers, and ice cream. So I'm going crazy. I'm ordering all those things. And my mom's like, "Are you able to eat this?" I'm like, "I don't know, mom. I'm just ordering. It's crazy. And they're
Mm-hmm.
giving me this, so of course I'm gonna order it." And I had to order double because I was gonna give the food to my mom as well, right? Because and they're like, "Are you eating this all for yourself?" I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I'm eating all of this, but I'm of course sharing this with my mom." But that system that sick kids has, I don't know if they changed it now, but it was amazing. It made you feel like you were not in a hospital. As you get used to things, like the human being is such an amazing creature in that way that you get used to things, and you're able to just manage how things are. But for the first, I want to say 2 to 3 months, it was an everyday, me and my mom living at the hospital and not even thinking what's after. But in month number 3, my mom, it's already thinking, I need to work, I need to find help, I need to find a way that we can live because it seems like you're getting better. So there is a light at the end of this tunnel. So we need to start looking for things. I need to start looking for things.
Mm.
So my mom was able to find some people that spoke Spanish. I don't know how she did it, man. She's such a strong woman, such a smart person. She just went and found people that spoke Spanish. She was able to find a job in the nighttime cleaning. Well, I'll have my treatment in the morning. She'll leave me sleeping, and she'll go for a few hours to work. And she find a job that was just across from the hospital. And it's just crazy to see my mom, just leaving me to sleep and all medicated and just going to work and coming back in the morning and just sleeping in the bed with me. It's unbelievable to see that. It just drives you to be better. I just wanted to keep to do the best that I can. So I don't disappoint my mom because she's doing so much. I might as well do my part and make things enjoyable. And like I said, the Hospital for Sick Children here in Toronto, it's an amazing place. It doesn't feel like the hospital. I mean, you do see a lot of kids with cancer and all that because, of course, it's a cancer patient and it's a hospital. But the ambiance of this place, it's unbelievable. In Christmas, you get all the presents that you can even think about. There's a lot of charities that that donate to this place. You have video games 24/7. You have movies, DVDs. Athletes come and now and then, hockey players to meet the patients. You have a lounge where you can go play pool. You can watch movies. It was such a difference from being at a South American hospital. It's night and day. There's not even a comparison.
Man.
That place is still it's like a mall. It's like a hotel. The hospital is beautiful. It's a beautiful place. I'm assuming the U.S. has something like that. I think St. Jude's is like that, but I think one of the top rated are the one in Toronto. They go all out. They do.
Yeah, that's a good environment because it's creating an environment for rejuvenating or revitalizing or bringing the life and spirit back into somebody, and it's not one of those places that the hospital is like that's the last stop before the graveyard. There's no hope and this is the dead end after it. But with all of that, athletes and the it boosts up the morale of a child and probably the parents of the children, and with that, I think that also causes a reaction to bring hope and to encourage people to, a better recovery or a speedy recovery.
Oh, definitely, man. That yeah, even because I'm an adolescent, so I started noticing things. Even the nurses are so pretty and nice, and they smell good that you're like, Jesus, this is a really nice place. I really like this nurse, I really want to see her again. And then they're so cheerful and they make you forget things, and you're like, oh man, and you can really talk to them even though you don't speak the language, but they can try to understand. I remember one of the best stories that I tell. It was around my birthday because I was still at the hospital at that time, and it was time for my birthday, and one of the nurses just asked me what it is that I miss about my birthday outside or back home. And I told her, I back home we do piñatas all the time. Is it such a cultural thing that we do that I miss that. I miss having piñatas around. So in the afternoon they bring you a lot of presents because it's your birthday, so they go all out. And I see that in the nurse that I was talking to, she was such a wonderful person. She says, we have a surprise for you in the lounge, because every floor has a lounge for kids to go play and have video games and all that kind of thing. So they took me to the lounge, and then I see that my nurse had, you seen those gloves that nurses use, those blue gloves, those surgical gloves. So they had inflated those gloves and filled it out with candy and made like a bunch of piñatas right there in the lounge with those gloves. Man, that just melted my heart. I just started crying because I didn't think she was gonna do that. Like I think I still have a picture of that, and it's unbelievable that the thought that they have, the wonderful personalities that they have working at the hospital. Of course, there are sad times when a kid passes. Everything is silent in there. Of course, and that reminds you that it's a hospital. There are sick children here, but it's not most of the time. But it's a wonderful time for the thing that I was going through. I think it like you said, it helped on the soul healing process.
Yeah.
And physically as well. So it was wonderful.
Yeah, I think they play a big part, the mind, body, and soul, all of it related. So if the mind psychologically and everything, if that's in a bad place, that in turn is going to affect the body, the immune system, and everything. But if you're doing things positively, if you're reinforcing healing or things like that, then that's also going to affect the body physically, and that'll build the immune system. And there's a lot of research that says that does have a big part. I mean, stress and anxiety, that's going to do things to affect the immune system and make you more susceptible to sickness or illness, or even cancerous cells to build and to destroy your body. So I think that all has a big part to play with it.
Oh, definitely, man. I firmly believe that.
And you experienced it firsthand.
Oh, for sure, man. I was in a point where that seemed like a relief from going to that through celebrating my birthday with piñatas. It's a huge turn of
Wow.
events. And psychologically, you're in a different place. You're just in a different place. You're not thinking about death anymore. You're thinking about your future now. Now you're thinking about, finally, I'm going to go out and enjoy my life.
So you already had you were looking at a time now, like, okay, your mother's working at night. She's coming to see you in the morning. And then I'm sure there came a point where you can be going home pretty soon.
Exactly. Things are turning into that way. The doctors are coming in and saying, there's a point in time where they're like, your cancer is in recession. You no longer have cancer. You're free. Your leukemia is gone. So now you're starting to think you finally get to go home. And I'm like, where's home? I don't have a home right now. But, we got the hospital helped us out with that. And it was amazing because the doctors are like, we're going to prepare you to go home and to take care of things. And as time progresses, things do get better. I got out of the hospital. I was 14. My hair started to grow back. I was going to high school, and life seemed to be turning around. And I was so happy. We found a home. We had our apartment, and it was close to my high school. And in an area downtown that was close to the hospital. They helped us out that way too. That we had a place that was close enough that we can go to the hospital if anything happened. And things turned around, and I was happy in 14, 15, and I turned into that like a teen, and I enjoyed my life to the fullest. I went back home. I met with my family. I went out with girls, a lot of girls. I had a lot of fun with that. And then I turned 16, and we had to go to the hospital every now and then for just checkups, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in every checkup, they always tell you, you're in recession, your cancer is gone. There's always a small chance that it might come back. I always lived with that in the back of my head. That was always a given for me. Because they tell you, right? And it might happen. It might return. We don't know. We just hope it doesn't. And that's why we bring you every now and then, so you get your checkups and see that you're fine, and that's fine. And then you go from 3 months, every 3 months, then you go every 6 months, and it turns into a yearly thing. And mine, it was a yearly thing, and I was 16. Like I said, I was in high school. I had a lot of. I was already having, like, I was enjoying my life to the fullest, and we went for a normal checkup. And usually the way it went is they did the lumbar puncture, and they said everything is fine, you're good to go, and you go home. That day, they did my lumbar puncture, and they didn't send me home right away. So I was pretty concerned at that point. Like I said, I'm 16. Hospital life is behind me. I'm enjoying my life. My mom is working, and we're having, normal life.
This is already a couple years later. You've already started to move on and live your life.
Exactly. Yeah, the hospital was way behind me. And at that point, I never told anybody that I had cancer. I don't know why. I never shared that with anybody, not even at school. I don't know why I thought I was ashamed of having cancer. but I just never bothered to share it with anybody. Nobody knew, not my friends, nobody, just my mom and myself. And 16, I go for the regular, and they do the lumbar puncture, and I don't get to go home. So I'm like, oh shit, this is okay. Let's see what's going on. So I go to see the doctors, and then they see me, and they're like, Jonathan, there's something there. It might be a virus. We might need to keep you here just to check out a few more things. So I'm like, okay, hopefully it's just a virus, and then they can sort this out. And at that point, I wasn't feeling sick or anything. There's nothing of the sort. There's no symptoms. There's nothing. So they did other tests, and they called us into a room with my mom, and they told us, Jonathan, there's unfortunately we don't have good news. Your cancer is back. Your leukemia is back. And the first leukemia I had was a mild type of leukemia. It was the more curable leukemia, the more treatable leukemia. I think it's called AML or something. I don't remember the terminology. It's been so many years at this point. But it was just a mild leukemia. Of course, it's still cancer, right? And they said your cancer is back. It's the same cancer that you had, but you also have another type of leukemia. So you have two types of leukemia going on right now. Because there's always a thing that I told my mom, and I don't know why I said this to my mom all the time. When I was living my life, I told my mom, if they ever tell me that the cancer is back, Mom, I'm not gonna do any treatment. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm sorry, but you're just gonna have to respect that. I'm not gonna do any treatments. I don't want to go do this whole thing again. So if my cancer is ever back, I'm not doing anything. I'll just let it be. And my mom always brushed it off because she thought I'm just being a teenager, or just a spur of the moment. And when they told us that I had leukemia and that it was more aggressive, and I had another type of leukemia at the same time, it just blew my mind. That I told the doctors, because my mom was there crying, and I asked him, what happens if I don't get treatment? And he's like, you probably start feeling sick in a month, and then you'll eventually die in 3. Oh, yeah. So I'm like, oh shit. So it's not like I can actually brush it off. Like I'm not the brave guy that said, no, I'm not gonna do any treatments if I don't.
Wow.
No, yeah. So I'm like, shit, Mom, I don't know. And they told us, there's only one thing to do. We have to, since it's such an aggressive leukemia, you need a bone marrow transplant because of the type of leukemia and of how aggressive it is. It's not going to be enough just to treat it with chemotherapy anymore. So you need a bone marrow transplant. So at that time, we always heard of bone marrow transplant, but we didn't know, because we didn't expect that to happen to us. And when we met with patients that had bone marrow transplant, and they had their story and things like that, but it was just a thing that we heard. It never occurred to us that that's what was gonna happen to me. So they told us that I still remember that it was Halloween. I had to go back to the hospital on Halloween that night, because I was gonna, be in the hospital. I was gonna live in the hospital again because I had to go through treatment again. And before they do any treatment or they do the bone marrow transplant, they give you a run. I'll call it a rundown, but it's basically a talk between the doctors and your family and yourself. and they tell you exactly what they're gonna do, what the plan is, and how they're gonna do it. So it's like a doctor's consultation, and we go to a room, and you have to wait quite a bit because they do it at the end of the days. But we were brought into the room, and the doctor talked to us, and he says, "This is what we're gonna need to do. The first thing we need to do is we're gonna give you a hard round of chemotherapy, the stronger type of chemotherapy, and with the chemotherapy, we also need to give you radiation because we need to kill every single cell of that leukemia. You need to be wiped clean, basically." And they told me it's basically we're killing you inside. We're messing with your DNA, basically. You're gonna be like a newborn baby, basically. It's essentially that. You're given a new life. It's a brand new you because it's all the cells, all the blood cells, everything gets destroyed with chemotherapy and radiation. All the good, all the bad. Everything goes. You're wiped clean. And after you are given the chemotherapy and radiation, there is a countdown to a couple of days, I think. And they count the day backwards because the day they do the transplant, it's day 0 because that's where your life begins. But before we even do that, we need to find you a donor, a bone marrow transplant donor, because you don't have your cells. You don't have your cells. You weren't born in Canada, so we don't have any of your stem cells. So we need to find somebody that is compatible with you. And first we start looking into family. We need to test your mom, and it would be great if we could test your father as well to see if they can give you their bone marrow.
Yeah, my actual doctors had to talk to immigration to let him have a visa so he can come here and do the test. I'm seeing my doctor personally talking to the people in back home, just telling them, yeah, he needs a visa, he needs to be here like next week if possible. And so that was even worse because my mom at that time, we didn't have anything to do with my father, and since we had to do this, my father had nowhere to stay, so he needed to stay where we lived, and it was another big blow to my mom and to me as well, because I haven't seen my dad in a long time, and we didn't talk like at all, so they had to fly him in, and he came here. He stayed with my mom because at that time I was already living at the hospital. So he is staying at my mom's at our place, and he comes in, and he seems to be sad as well. Like, I'm not gonna lie on this. He seems to be he wants to make up for all the time that we lost in that little window that I had, and then because he wasn't supposed to stay for long. Like, if he wanted, he could have, but they tested, and it turned out that he's not a match. My mom is not a match, so we need to find a different donor from a different source. So that's usually when that happens, they go to a donor list, and they trying to find somebody else that has donated bone marrow to.
Oh, so he
to
didn't
a blood
even,
clinic.
it didn't end up matching with your father after that.
Not at all. Yeah, if this was a soap opera, he would have, been the match, and then we get to do the transplant right away. But no, he didn't match. And at the point when he was flying out, I was at the stage where I was already losing my hair, and he's never seen me because I had like really long hair, and he's never seen me bald or or losing my hair, or that skinny, or that unhealthy. But when they told us that they needed to do that, and they were looking for other donors and all that stuff. In the consult, like I said, where we were told what we needed to do and what the bone marrow transplant is, they explained exactly what it was, and I sorry I didn't finish the explanation. And they after they do the radiation and chemotherapy, like all the previous shots that you had as a kid, like those are gone. Everything is gone. Like you're a brand new person, like basically.
It's like they're wiping your system completely clean and
It's
and building
exactly
it up.
like that. It's like doing a factory reset on a computer.
Yeah. Wow.
It's essentially that. And you will think that that was the worst part of it, and they're like, no, there's still more stuff that you need to listen to. So there's a great chance that the since it's from a unknown donor, there's a chance that your cells will not engraft. So there's a chance that the bone marrow transplant doesn't work. You're not able to engraft, and we need to find somebody else. And there's a chance that you don't make it. And I'm like, okay, that's probably the worst. And then no, they're like, and if you engraft and everything is fine for a little bit, there's a high chance that you get a virus called graft versus host disease. And they explained that they actually need you to have this virus at least a little bit, because this virus is basically it activates your, like, let's just say you're a new person, right? And something comes in, and this virus just thinks that's not me, so we need to attack. So it works like your immune system in a way. So it attacks everything that it comes in contact with. But if they get too aggressive, it's not a good thing. So you need to have at least a little bit of that virus, because that virus actually kills the remaining cancer cells that you have in your system.
Okay.
So even if after your chemotherapy and your radiation, and there's still little bits of cancer cells right after the bone marrow transplant, the graft versus host disease would actually kill those remaining cancer cells. So you need to have at least like a mild case of graft versus host disease, which is called GVHD for short. And I'm like, okay, you need that thing. Okay, that's fine. But then they tell you, it's not that simple, because the graft versus host disease could get out of control. And if it gets out of control, it could get into either your skin, it could get into your liver, and here's the chances. If it gets into your liver and it's a bad case, you're gonna die. If it gets into your lungs, you're going to die. If it gets into your spleen, you're gonna die. So the chances of you getting of this virus getting out of control and getting into your system, and you're probably gonna be dead if it runs out of control.
Wow.
So I'm like, I'm already dizzy at this point, because there's so much information that I never knew before. I didn't even know I had a whole different idea of what a bone marrow transplant is. At this point, I'm thinking, okay, a transplant, it's you take something from somebody, it's like an organ that you have in your body, and then they take it out of that person, that they put it on you. It's just not like that. A bone marrow transplant is like a blood transfusion.
And there's so many X factors that can go wrong, and everything has to fall in place and work perfectly for this to be a success.
And they need to find a donor that has, and they have a ranking that goes from 1 to 10, right? If your donor is 10 out of 10, that's the best outcome you can have. But if you don't find a donor that has like an 8 out of 10, the high chances are that you're not gonna make it with that type of donor, right?
And time isn't really on your side, so you don't have a long time to wait for that perfect match, huh?
Oh
So,
yeah. And at that time that I'm still waiting for a donor, they couldn't find anything here in Canada. So they're like, we're not able to find a donor yet, just yet. So we can't begin to do the transplant yet because you don't have a donor. So even if we do all the chemotherapy and all the, we don't have a donor. We don't have anything to give you. So we need to give it a little more time, and we're gonna go look for in a different blood bank. So they ended up going into the actually, my donor is somebody from Germany. I don't know who
Oh,
he is.
wow.
Yeah, they went to the blood hospital. I don't know what they're called in Germany, and they found a donor that was a 10 out of 10 match, and then they gave me his cells,
How long wait?
and I think it was a little bit over a month.
A month of you waiting for this for the
Yeah,
match.
eh, for the match. Yeah, because they need to find the best match, right? If it's a 8 out of 10, it's not that great. 7 out of 10 is not that great. They need a 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10.
During that wait, did they mention we need to find something soon, or did they mention anything about the severity of you having to wait so long because the cancerous cells they're still active and they're aggressive during this time, and were they able to do anything to hold that off a little bit in the meantime as you waited?
Yeah, actually, that's exactly what happened. Since the cancer is gonna go out of control, what they do is, in the time that they're waiting, they're gonna give me like a light chemotherapy, like a round of
Okay.
chemotherapy that it's not as aggressive as the one that they're gonna do afterwards, but a light chemotherapy, so at least they can control the leukemia and not the leukemia not to kill me at least. And going back, I'm still and I'm still listening to the doctors talking about all these things that are like happen, and then they said something that made me almost like I almost fainted, and I had to get out of that room, and my mom stayed after because I don't even know what they told her after, because they said there's a high chance that you're after all this you're not going to be able to have children. And I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, because, even right now, maybe your doctor didn't tell you, but you probably can't have kids right now because of the chemotherapy that you had to go through before. And I didn't know that. My doctor didn't tell me that. I didn't know. I didn't know. And for a South American people, having children and a family is such a big part of the culture that my mom always told me that she wanted to have grandkids and all that stuff. And me listening to this, that I'm probably sterile at this point and there's no chance of me having a family eventually, that that killed me. That really did kill me. I started to lose consciousness. I stopped breathing correctly, and I just needed to get out. I just said, I need to go out. I need to get out of here. I need to go out because I can't take this. So I get out of the room, and I'm walking towards my room where I'm staying at this point. And then I meet one of the most wonderful and most important people in my life, and most important person of my life. And he's like my best friend. He's like almost like a father to me. Yeah, his name is Philip, and I'm walking towards and I'm crying, and I'm, I'm a mess. And he stops me. He's like, "What's going on? What's happening to you?" And I'm like, I just had I had nobody to talk to at that point. That I'm like telling this stranger that I just went into my consultation before by my bone marrow transplant, and they told me that I can't have kids, and I'm a mess. I don't want to. I don't want to do this. And he asked me, I'm like, do you have a girlfriend right now? I'm like, no. And he's like, oh, and are you gonna like? Is somebody waiting outside for you? I'm like, no. And he's like, why are you worrying about having kids then? Or are you even thinking about that right now? That's a thing to worry about later. And then after I found out that his nephew is also going through a consultation for bone marrow transplant. So his nephew is also waiting for basically the same fate as me. So things work out sometimes like that, and And it made me feel a lot better, talking to him and, realizing that that's really not important then. Like the having kids thing, it's just a afterthought. Like you could really die after this, you could really, really die. Like
Hmm.
there's more possibilities of you dying than coming out of it. And they finally found a match. And usually, what they do, they have at Sick Kids Hospital, they have 4 different wards in the 8th floor of the hospital, and they have 8A, 8B, AC, and AD. There's a ward only for transplant patients. I think is 8D, if I'm not mistaken. And usually, what they have is your room is like a glass room, basically. The only one person can go in with you. Only one person can visit you afterwards. This place needs to be as sterilized and as clean as possible because you're having these kids that have to go through chemotherapy and radiation, and if a slight virus of flu comes in and they catch it, that's a that's an end. So it's such a restricted place. And usually at that time, what they did is they had like a timeline where, let's just say in February, all the people that have to get a bone marrow transplant to go in, and there's usually 10 at a time, and they do the treatment, and then they do the other batch, and I don't know, 6 months later or something like that. So at that time, it's 10 of us going in. One of them, it's my friend's nephew, and myself, and I think I knew like 2 other patients that have to go through it. And all 10 of us went in, and right now only his nephew and me are alive. They're all gone.
Whoa. That is exactly
Yeah.
how much of a chance it is of you not making it out on the other end. I mean, they told you all the possibilities, and when I'm listening to you explain everything that can go wrong, and you mentioned that more things can go wrong than can go right, and you need everything on top of finding a match, but everything to fall in place just right and work out the way it should in order for it to be a success. And my goodness, the heavens were smiling down at you during that
Yeah,
process.
actually, yeah, man. Because like I said, there's more of things that could go wrong. That it's more a high chances that you're not gonna make it. So in the bone marrow transplant is a last resource. Is the last thing that they can try to make you better. So the leukemia can get you. So the bone marrow transplant it's a big thing. It's huge.
How old was the nephew of your friend?
I think he was 10 at this time, if not a little bit
And you
younger.
were 16, 17?
16.
16. How long
Hmm.
was that the bone marrow process?
I think between the time where you get all the chemotherapy and the radiation, they have like a countdown. It's like a -10, -8, because on day 0 it's your day of your transplant, because you're like I said, you're a newborn baby, and it's like your new birthday. That's what they usually say. It's your new birthday, and that's when the transplant happens. And usually on that day, when you're like, you're destroyed from chemotherapy. I don't even need to explain how people that have to go through cancer know what chemotherapy is for a person, what radiation can do to a person. Like I'm thinking about all the after effects of the bone marrow transplant, and I'm not even thinking about what the fuck the chemotherapy does to you, what the radiation does to you. I'm not even thinking about that. Like, and after,
It's torment, isn't it?
it's mad. It's madness. It really is. They basically they kill you. They kill every part of you. In that, and they're right. You're a new person. You're born again. you really are born again.
I know you talked about the chemo brain. You said you mentioned before saying that there's a lot of parts that are missing during the radiation treatments and then going through the bone marrow transplant. Were you for a lot of it sedated out and didn't really feel much of it until the whatever it was that they put into your system wore out, the amnesia or the medication?
For the chemotherapy and the radiation, it was me. Like I was awake and I knew everything that I had to go through. So
Oh
I
man.
know exactly how I felt. I know the nauseousness. I know the losing your hair. It's not that important, but I was like before I went to all this, I was a really vain person. I really cared about how I looked because I had really long curly hair and I like to dress nicely. And then after I'm losing my hair, I'm losing weight. I'm pale as a freaking napkin, and that really gets to me. And then but after you just think you're just a dumb kid. You're just thinking about stupid shit. But chemo brain is a big part, I think, for most cancer patients. It's they usually you forget things more often, or there's patches of your life that you don't remember, and it's not deadly or anything, but it's inconvenient. Let's just call it that.
After coming out of all of that, did they let you know right away, let you and your mother know that like I think this is going to it's going to work out and we're gonna have some recovering days ahead of us now?
Yeah, because they actually give you a few days. There's a few days right after the transplantation. So on the day of the transplant, it's basically you can have your mom or whoever is taking care of you, only one person right next to you. And what my mom did at the time, because we're Catholic, she brought a priest to, do the blessings on.
Oh, to pray for you,
Yeah,
uh-huh.
because the bone marrow transplant is basically, imagine like a huge transfusion. So there's a bag like filled with fluid and a bag of blood right next to it. And my mom had that bag less, and that's basically what the bone marrow transplant is, because you're wiped from the chemotherapy and the radiation. That fluid, those donor cells, get transplanted into you, and it's just like an IV fluid. What I thought of chemo, like a bone marrow transplant, was I thought they were gonna open my spine, take something from there, and then just put
Hmm.
somebody else's bone or something like that. But it wasn't like that at all. It's just like a big transfusion that you're getting. But if you request it, they do give you some sort of sedation if you want, just to forget about things or to make you more comfortable. That's what the word they use usually, make you more comfortable. And the thing goes in,
Hmm.
and I don't remember what happened afterwards. I just remember waking up because I did request something to make me forget about it. And my mom just gave me her blessing before she had to leave because they have to leave at some point. And I just went to sleep. And a few days later, I woke up and they said, "Good news, you engrafted. Things seem to be okay. Things are working out."
Man, out of hearing all of the possibilities of things to go wrong, and then you also at a time I'm stressing over the fact that my goodness, I'm going to be sterile. I can't have any children. But then coming out of it and hearing those words, it had to be some type of sense of relief for as much negative news that just kept clouding over you and hanging over you that it seemed like that was a breaking of the clouds and a little bit of light shining through again.
Oh, for sure. Like waking up and seeing my mom next to me, like sleeping on a chair, and then like, "Mom, are you there?" And she's like, "I'm
Yeah.
here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm
Am I
here." And
dreaming?
then, yeah, and then she, goes to tell the nurse that I'm waking up, and it's a strange feeling that everybody's so like aware of what's going on that they come in running, and they're like, "You're here, you're here, you're here, you're doing great. Things are going fine. How are you feeling? Do you need anything?" And like I said, people at the sick kids hospital, some nurses are really good at the work they do. and I'm grateful to most of them for sure. And yeah, my mom is happy, everything is working out, and they start, they come in and they said, you have a little bit of graft versus host disease, which is great. It could kill a little bit of what's remaining there, and you want that, and you're going to take this medication, and as the days go by, we can move you from the glass room, we can move you into like a regular room, and then you can have people come over and visit you and all of that. And as days go by, and they give you medication, and they give you steroids just to make sure you're protected. And steroids usually do the work to keep you this healthy in some way. And things are seem to be going well at that point. I'm out of the classroom. I'm having my mom like there more often, because like I said, in the classroom they can come in and visit you for a limited amount of time. They're not allowed to stay for long. So now I'm having my mom there, and I'm fine. Everything is, and everybody's surprised that there's nothing going on, that everything seemed to be working fine. There's no complications. Like, this guy really did, went through all of this and nothing happened.
No
And
complications.
at that point, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, shit, I went through a lot. And, you think that this is it, that's it. Life is, things are going to start working out again. But life is funny like that. And at least in my life, because at times when I think, everything is done, I'm going to be enjoying my life, everything is going to go back to normal, there's something that, pulls me back and throws me back against the wall again. Because after we're done the transplant, we're done with that part of being in the hospital. I'm in my house now. Of course, I'm still taking medication. I'm still taking steroids. I'm still a little puffy from the steroids, and I'm already home, and I'm doing well, and I'm feeling fine. Of course, after the transplant, they tell you not to eat outside food for like 6 months, and you have to come in for visits and stuff like that, because they still need to check out and see how things are going. But there's semblance, like I'm already ready to start moving on. I'm like, yeah, let's start this again. But like I said, life is funny that way. And at this point, it's got to be a little bit over a year, almost a year and a half, I will say. I'm 17, I think, 17 and a half. And it's like I said, it's been almost a year of the transplant. I'm in school again. I'm going. I'm enjoying things again. I'm still taking medication, of course. I'm still a little puffy, or I'm at that point. I'm already losing the puffiness from the steroids. There were pains from here and then, but they said that's normal because you're taking steroids and things. It's so much that you go through, right? There's got to be some leftovers of the chemotherapy or the radiation that's gonna affect your life, right? That's just a given. There's no avoiding that. It's fucking poison. Chemotherapy and radiation is
Yeah.
poison, man. There's no way around it. The thing is
Yeah,
poison.
that it's a double-edged sword because people, it does kill the cancerous cells, but at the same time it's going to kill the good cells. I've never been through anything like that, but just hearing stories and then listening to your story, I could only imagine exactly what the torment and the torture is of going
Yeah,
through that.
yeah, and radiation. It makes your skin a little bit darker because it's radiation. It's like a big X-ray machine, and it's really hot, and since I was getting it all over my body, I'm getting some dark spots on my skin, right?
Yeah.
It's not bad, but it's darker than my complexion, and that's something that you have to deal with. It's not that bad. It's nothing to be worried about. And at this point, I'm already going to the hospital every 3 months, I think, or every month. I'm still going every month, and suddenly for some reason, I'm starting to get darker and darker because I'm I'm really, I wouldn't say white, but I'm not as dark as the South American people. I'm a little almost like white kind of color. But as I'm going through to the visits, I'm starting to get really tan, my whole body, and especially my face. Like I'm dark. It seems like when I'm going to the hospital, they're like, "Oh, you went to vacation? Like, where'd you go? Was the beach nice?" I'm like, I haven't left anywhere. I'm like, I'm here in Toronto where like minus like 30 degrees.
Yeah, haven't had sun in 2 months.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, I haven't gone anywhere. And that's when they start to, worry about things because you haven't gone anywhere and you're getting dark all of a sudden.
That's not
That's not
normal.
right. There's something going on. So I go in and they check me out, and then again they said, please, you need to stay a little bit longer because we need to discuss some things. So I'm like, oh shit, here we go again. What the fuck is going on? And we go into another consultation, and they're like,
Yeah.
I'm really sorry to say this, but it seems like your graft versus host disease has activated, and it's attacking your skin.
This
I'm
is
like,
one of the things that they mentioned beforehand that could happen, right? One of the
exactly,
man.
one of the things that could happen. But I thought those things were only at the beginning, right? I didn't think,
And a year later.
yeah, a year later, they're like, we need to give you stronger steroids. At that point, and this is what I hate, what I resent about Sick Kids Hospital, the doctor that I saw at that time, she told me that my graft versus host disease was just a mild case, like nothing to really worry about. That they were gonna look after things. And at this point, I'm 17 and a half, I think, and there's only like a few months until I have to go. I can no longer go into the Sick Kids Hospital because I'm turning 18, and I have to go to Princess Margaret Hospital across the street because I'm 18 and I'm an adult now, and I can no longer go into the sick children hospital, right? So there's 6 months for me to still be there with all the nice looking patients and like nice looking people that are really, they take care of you, they treat you like a child kind of thing, to the adult hospital where, you know, what I mean, like elderly people that are really sick, in their 30s, 20s, whatever. So there's a huge change from one hospital to the other one. But at that time, I'm still at Sick Kids Hospital because, like I said, I have like six more months. And the doctor there she's like, you just have a mild case of graft versus host of your skin. We just need to take a close look, and we're gonna give you steroids for it, and yeah, you're gonna be feeling fine. And as the time passes by, I start to feel like my skin is like completely different. Like I can no longer sit on the floor, for example. It hurt really, really badly to sit on the floor. Like I can no longer.
What type of pain? Like a prickly pain, like you needles or
Uh, have you ever felt like somebody is pulling you and they're pulling really hard on your arm
your skin?
or your skin, and they're pulling or pulling? Imagine that to like 100 times. Like somebody's grabbing you with like tongues, and they're just pulling your skin. So it felt like that.
Oh,
It felt like somebody's stretching my skin to the hardest they can, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Imagine if you size a small, right?
uh-huh.
Or actually, let's just pretend you're size large for t-shirts and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And they give you a small size, and imagine putting that on you, all the stretching that happens. So basically, like that. Imagine that my whole skin is a size L, but I'm feeling like I'm a size small, and everything is stretching and pulling, and all of a sudden I'm getting rips in my skin, like bad rips. Like I said, imagine just putting like an extra small size on a large.
Oh, so there was like open wounds that started going on because your skin was stretching, I guess.
Open
ripping and
exact.
tearing and
It was a stretching.
oh man.
And you think it was a stretching. No, what it was, it's shrinking. My skin is shrinking. I'm I'm getting like those elderly people that walk a little hunchback
Yeah.
because their skin's so tight. So it's basically that. My skin is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And
Oh
as I try to do my
man.
regular movement, boom, there's like your arm gets cut open. Like you move your legs a little bit, and boom, your knee is bleeding, and you try to grab something, and then your whole back is full of just cuts. It's basically stretching all your skin.
Your flesh is
It's ripping.
ripping
It's piece
piece
by
by
piece.
piece.
And
God.
at this point, because it takes a little bit of time for all of this to happen, right? At first it's just a small cuts, and they treat it, and they're like, okay, yeah, things are gonna be okay. And time's is running out for me to stay at the hospital and seeing these doctors. And at this point, they're still telling me it's just a mild case of graft-versus-host disease. So I'm like, okay, okay. I'm like, I'm believing these people because they've been treating me for so long. They've been treating me so well, and I'm okay. It's probably just a mild case. And time runs out. I have to go to Princess Margaret Hospital and to my few first, appointments and meeting new doctors, and they're seeing this young guy, and at this time also in my face, there's spots that start to change colors, like from the darkness and went to like a pale kind of color around the cheeks. So I'm
Man.
like, what the hell is going on? I don't know what the hell is going on, because little by little I'm seeing in my mirror that I'm having these spots that are white, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I'm at the hospital now, at Princess Margaret Hospital, and all of a sudden, like, I get more and more tired, and I'm ripping badly. Like, most of my skin is covered in like, not band-aids, but dressing, like heavy dressing for wounds. Like, most of my back is covered with like dressings and creams and all that kind of stuff. And that's when I mean my new doctor, and he's like, Jonathan, we need to be more aggressive in treating your graft versus host disease, because as you know, this is like a really bad case of graft versus host disease of the skin. And I'm like, what? Like a like a really dangerous part of graft versus host disease. Like it's really bad. I'm like, but the people across the street that told me it's just a mild thing. But like, no, Jonathan, this is bad. This is a bad case of graft versus host disease of the skin. And what it meant basically is that my body started to not reject, but it saw that because my new cells are not my cells. All the blood and all my cells and everything it's mine, but it's not really mine. It's the donor cells.
Yeah, it's like they're in a foreign body.
Exactly. So they're like, oh, what the hell is that? And they start attacking that, just like they said that you need a little bit of this graft versus host, so it attacks the cancer cells. But my graft versus host disease run out of control, and I started noticing that my skin is not their body, and it started attacking. And what it did is it made my skin tighter, and it gave me, let's just call it like vitiligo, like what Michael Jackson had.
Okay, yeah.
So I started decoloring in my skin, in my face especially. So I'm seeing these spots, and all of a sudden I can't cry. There's no tears coming out of my eyes. And what happened? The graft versus host disease burned out the ducts on my tear ducts.
Oh my
So the
God.
graft versus host disease was burning everything that it could go through, everything that it saw, it was attacking. So it went after my lungs. It took my lungs and it squeezed them as much as possible. Like it burned my lungs. So I'm running out of breath more easily now.
Did it go to your liver?
No, it didn't go to my liver, thank God. At that, thankfully, the hospital at the adult hospital, they said we need to treat this because it's really bad. They are the first people that said this is a really bad case. This is not a mild case. I don't understand why they didn't treat it.
So for whatever reason, the children's hospital they undermined it. They didn't see it as a threat because if they seen it in not a mild form, but something that was aggressive and needed to be it needed to be dealt with immediately, then they could have already started with some treatment ASAP.
Exactly, and that's the word that I was looking for. Aggressive. It's aggressive. It's an aggressive graft versus host disease. They could have treated it at the spot. They could have done so much more. I think at that time they're like just thinking this guy is gonna go to a different hospital, and that's it. You know, we don't have to deal with it because I'm older, right?
He won't be our responsibility
Yeah,
anymore.
because I'm older at this point, and I'm no longer a kid.
Man,
And I know for a fact they could have done more to it. They could have stopped my skin from, because I'm already getting darker and tanner when they are seeing me, right? I'm already ripping. My skin is already ripping. Why are you guys thinking that this is just a mild case of graft versus host disease? And that's when the doctors across the street, they're like, we need to treat this. You're gonna have to stay here at the hospital. We're gonna have to get you upstairs. We need a wound care nurse that knows how to treat this. Because at that time, because my skin is opening up and have so many entry wounds, I got MRSA. It's like a skin infection that basically eats away your skin. So the MRSA is eating my wounds and my skin, and I'm suffering. I'm really suffering at this time because it just hurts so badly just to move around. My mom has started to have to push me in a wheelchair because I couldn't walk right anymore. Everything that I did was hurting. One movement and it will rip apart. Insane. They didn't think it was going to be this bad, but it was. It was really, really bad. And that's why I told you about the fentanyl, because I was in so much pain and at the hospital. I was covered in wounds so much.
yeah.
I was in so much pain and I
God.
couldn't deal with things out. And they didn't know what else to give me because I'm taking morphine and that's not taking the pain away. They're giving me hydromorphone. This shit's not taking away the pain. They're like, we're going to give you fentanyl because that's probably going to take the pain away. And they did. They gave me like a tiny drop of fentanyl under the tongue, and I was out. And I just woke up a few days later, and at that time I'm not even eating. So, oh yeah, that's another thing. I stopped eating. I couldn't handle it because it got to my stomach as well at that point. Like I didn't eat because I didn't need to eat. I didn't feel hungry. Like I didn't eat at all. I didn't eat for, I want to say, more than 3 weeks. They had to feed me through a tube. They had to give me food through there because I wasn't eating. So when I wake up, and I think it's only a few days, but apparently it's more than a few days. That's what my family's told me and what Phillips told me. And I wake up and I go to the bathroom of the bed at the hospital where I'm at, and I see there's a mirror, and then I see myself, and it's a full on vitiligo on my skin. Like I truly do look like Michael Jackson.
Oh man.
And all the muscle that I had in my legs, in my arms, everything is gone. I look like a person who has bulimia. Have you seen those really, really
Like a
skinny?
skeleton, huh?
Yeah, I lost all my muscle. Everything that makes like a person look a little bit fatter, all of that is gone. All of that is gone. Like, what the hell happened? And when I wake up, and my friend, and I see that, and I'm freaking out, I'm crying, my mom is crying, and my friend Philip is there, and he's like, dude, we need to go back to the basics. We need to talk to these doctors and have them treat it from the beginning. And to that end, they did. They started, treating the wounds, giving me something to calm the graft versus host disease. But at this point, it already did too much damage, and I'm still suffering through some of the stuff that it did. Like I still don't cry. Like I'm having like a procedure done like on Tuesday, so they can put like tubes down my duct holes, so I can have some tears coming out. But don't get me wrong, like it's been quite a bit since then, and I've been doing things like I've been getting healthier and healthier.
Yeah.
But yeah, the graft versus host disease at that time wasn't a mild case. It was super aggressive, and it did a lot of damage. It did a huge amount of damage.
All of the damage that it did towards your body, and then when you finally looked at yourself and you said, man, I just look like I'm just backbone, cheekbones, there's all of my muscles are gone, I look like a skeleton. How many months was that? Was that about 6, 7, 8 months after you had found out that I can't even say the graphics, I
Graft
can never
versus host
say.
disease.
Yeah. So was it about 7, 8 months of you finding out? Well, when you were at the child's hospital, them saying it was a mild case, but come to find out it wasn't. It wasn't a mild case. It was extremely aggressive.
It was immediately, like I said, probably 2 weeks after I first met my doctor. That's when everything just went to shit.
Fast.
Fast, really fast, like really, really fast. And it had to be, I gotta say, less than 4 months or something for me to lose all that and to be that sick that even the hospital is telling my friend, I don't think this guy's gonna make it, man. Like, he is in a really, really bad spot. You need to do something for him. And to my friend's credit, he's always there been for me, and he's still here with me. And
Man, hearing you're only. I mean, this is you telling the story, painting the picture, walking us through some of these experiences, but you had to deal with it on your bones, on your body, on your psychology, everything, your spirit, all of it was tried, was tested. I got to ask you, at any time during this or afterwards, did you ever feel like bitterness or anger or feeling like why me, and just because you said that your mother was a she was a religious person. She brought the priest over so they can bless you and they can give their prayers to God and help you through this whole process. But did you ever, even at times, feel like there is no God? Why am I going through this?
actually, yeah, at that point in my life, the religion was just a stupid concept for me, and God was like not existent. And my mom lost her faith quite a bit. I would say my mom lost a lot of faith at that point. And yeah, like I told you, I was a really vain person, and seeing that I'm looking like this, and it is gonna be a long time before I start to even get better. When I because they sent me home after this, I was still covered in dressings and all of that, and I'm home, and my mom of course has to go to work because my mom is still taking care of us, right? So I'm alone, and I'm like in my bed, and I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on? Like, I don't, like, at that time I was already planning on killing myself because there was no happiness. There's nothing. What I described to my psychologist afterwards, or my psychiatrist, to be honest, I said there's no emotions there anymore. I'm numb. I'm not happy. Like, eating is just a concept for me at this point. I'm not enjoying life. No pleasure. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Like, I don't want to move. I don't want to. I just want to be sleeping. That's all I want. I don't want to get up.
No
I don't.
pleasure, huh?
There's. I don't. I'm not even watching TV or videos at this point. I'm like, there's no point. Why am I even doing this? Like, there's. That's it. And I have like heavy medication at this point. So I'm planning this. I'm like, I don't want to cut my wrist because my mom will have to clean all of this. So I can't do that. And I'm not, that's the first thought. I'm like, I'm gonna take a bunch of these, and hopefully they'll know what to do. It'll be a little bit less dramatic for them to clean up afterwards. Because that was my thought. Like, if I do this, my mom is gonna have to deal with it, and I'm like, and that's what I'm fighting against, right? I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore, but I don't want to hurt my mom. And I think that religious part of me that was ingrained from when I was born, that if I kill myself, I'm not gonna go to heaven and see my mom again. That thought was always there. So even if I lost my faith at that point, there's no praying or anything. At that time, I'm like, okay, if but that's still ingrained. If I kill myself, I'm not gonna be able to see my mom in heaven because I know my mom is going to heaven. So that's my thought. So that's my thought, right? I'm like, this is it. I'm like, I can't do that to my mom. I want to see my mom again. If I'm reborn, I want to still be my mom's son. If I have to go through all this,
Hmm.
if it wasn't for her, I would have killed myself a long time ago, a while ago.
I mean, it's easy for someone to be on the outside and just speculate like, oh no, but you gotta have. And I say that a lot with this show and just bringing hope and meaning back into somebody's life, or maybe by somebody hearing these stories that it might give them a little bit of hope or encouragement to want to do better or strive for something that's more promising compared to where they're at right now. But when you're in a situation like that, and for you it's almost like a tease. Like every time things start going right, boom, it knocks you right back down. And sometimes, and this last time, it seemed like it knocked you down harder than ever. How many times does that happen to somebody before you just finally just say, I'm through with it? I don't even want to play this game anymore.
It was that. This time we really got knocked down. Like I told you, I'm like ready to call that off. Like I'm waiting for sweet death. Even if the doctors say I'm doing a little bit better, I'm hoping for somebody to say, he's gonna have a few years to live or a few months. So I'm hoping that's what's gonna happen. And of course, my family and friends are still telling me, you got a lot to live for. But those are just empty words at this point to me. To me, I'm like, no, there's no point. Everything that I do, everything that I try to enjoy, there's no enjoyment, man. That's it. Like I don't enjoy this. Like I'm not happy. I can't. I can't even cry because there's no tears coming out of my fucking eyes. So I'm like, there's no crying.
It's almost like you weren't able to feel any pleasure, any enjoyment, no tears, anything, but you were still able to feel because you felt that pain and the hurt for your mother. And if you were to kill yourself, what it would do to her. So there was still the emotion there, but it wasn't on one side. It was just the other, that the hurt and the pain, and what you would put your mother through if you were to follow through and swallow those pills or do whatever it was that you had in mind to do.
Oh, for sure. It was just my mom. It was just her. That's why I didn't do it. That idiotic thought that I'm not gonna see my mom in heaven if I kill myself. That was the only thing going for me. That's
Mm,
that's the only thing going for me. That's the only thing. Like I'm not, like I said, even if seeing my mom,
yeah.
like I can't do that to you. I can't kill myself and have you clean up afterwards. No, I can't do that to you. If I'm gonna go, let it be like something else, like something that I didn't do. So I don't have so you don't have to blame yourself for it.
Mm,
This. So
yeah.
because I knew if I kill myself, my mom was gonna probably blame herself and do something because she's told me like if you're not here, I'm done. I'm going with you. I'm like, no, mom. What the fuck are you talking about? If I'm gone, you have to keep being here. Don't be crazy. Don't talk like that.
Oh.
And I'm telling my mom this like, you have to go. Like, mom, if I leave, you live on. But yeah, the stupid thought of just me thinking my mom is gonna have to do the cleanup if I could kill myself. That was the only thing going for me at that time. And I gotta thank one of my best friends, Esteban, at that point. He talked to me and he said, "Man, why don't you just go to a psychiatrist?" Because that's another thing about being South American and in that part of our culture, the thinking that because we're looking for help or going to a psychologist or psychiatrist, you're crazy. And yeah, you're crazy because you're going through this. You have to be a man and put through this, or you're weak because for looking for help.
You're supposed to
And
stand on your own and just deal with it.
exactly, so that was my way of thought for many years. And that's when my friend talked to me and he was like, "Dude, I'm going to therapy. I'm speaking to somebody. Why don't you just give it a shot? Like I know you're not enjoying things anymore. Like just go, try it out, see how it goes." And yeah, I did. I went to the hospital and I told them that I was planning to, off myself and that I needed a psychiatrist. And that, of course, immediately they hooked me up with a psychiatrist at the hospital. And I started talking to her, and she gave me some medication, and little by little things started to get better. Things started to get a little bit better, but there's still the, like I said, being a really vain person and having to go out and people look at you because I look like Michael Jackson, like I said. Like I have like my vitiligo, I'm super skinny at this point, and kids get scared looking at you, and it was really hard for quite a bit for me to come up with a really good excuse for keep on living. It took up quite a bit. But there's still things happening like that nowadays. But now I don't give a shit anymore. Now I'm like I'm happy with my life.
Yeah.
I'm like doing stuff, so I don't concern my things with that. But that's because I'm older too. And that time I'm still in my 20s. I'm still I still haven't figured out that all that matters is
Hmm.
me and nobody else. But yeah, and the psychiatrist at that point giving me the medication did really help out quite a bit.
Was it the medication, or was it also? Could I ask you what were some things about speaking with the psychiatrist that helped you? Was it just letting out your emotions because you probably weren't really speaking to anybody about it? You were just dealing with it, or not even dealing with it, but just shoving it down and bottling it up and not speaking about it. Was it like just the matter of speaking it out and putting everything out in the air, getting it off your chest, or a combination of that and the medication?
I think at that time it was at first it was more of the medication. I think the medication gave me the boost that I needed, and then after it was more of a opening up to the psychiatrist and telling her, I'm gonna offer myself, like, what do you recommend? And then we talk, and she tells me there's more things to look at in life. To be honest, I don't even remember what we talked about with the psychiatrist at that time. I don't remember at this point, but I know that we did a couple of trials of different medications at that point for depression, and some of them didn't work out and made me feel even worse. But we came across the right medication, and that gave me the boost that I needed, the boost of me to get up and don't just stay home and think about all the wrong things that happen, and start to move on and live my life.
Yeah, I'm sure it gave you everything that you've been through. It is, man, one hell of a story. But that also, once you started coming out of this slump and feeling the way you were feeling, at least mentally and psychologically, with not wanting to be here, I have no pleasure, I have no enjoyment, there's no point in even playing this game anymore. But then years later, and with age, even dealing with people staring at you and looking at you, of course nobody wants to feel like they're the odd one out and anything. That's going to do something for your self-esteem and just your self-worth.
Or
But
for your self-esteem, especially because I'm still 20s, right? And I'm like, damn, people are scared, or people are looking at me differently, and you're
like
like,
I'm a monster.
exactly. So you're like, oh shit, I don't want to go out. I'm just gonna stay home.
Yeah, and I'm sure after all of this, you have an appreciation for your mother for sure, but maybe just for another chance at life.
Oh, for sure. But there's two more things that actually happened even right after that that rocked my life again. Because like I said, man, shit, you think it's going well, and boom again. Because I'm getting steady, and I'm enjoying my life again. I'm going to college. I'm studying. I'm hanging out with my friends more. I'm having a lot of fun. And then, I'm going to college, and all of a sudden, I'm starting to fucking get this pain in my stomach, man. Like out of nowhere. I'm eating, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? It hurts. And, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna take, because I still take painkillers, right? So I'm like, I'm just gonna take this a little bit and then see how it goes. So I take it, I'm like, okay, things seem to be working fine. And the next day, again, the pain, man, it was really, really bad. So I had to go to emergency. And I talked to them and told them that I was feeling pain right here. And they're like, okay, we need to do an ultrasound and the test and everything. And when they come back, they're like, oh, Jonathan, there's something that we need to discuss, because there's a little stone in between your liver and your pancreas, I think they said, or between my liver and some other organ that are pre-connected. And there's a small little stone there that is obstructing the fluid of blood or something like that. And we need to remove that. But since you're such a high risk patient, we don't want to do the operation on you. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a little hole right next to where your liver is, and we're gonna insert like a little tube, and we're gonna give you this bag for like a month or two, or even less. So it'll drain out that little stone, and you'll just flush it out. So I'm like, okay, fine, it's not that bad. So they do. It fucking hurts like shit because it's a fucking hole right next to your liver. And I'm with this bag and like hoping that in between the timeline that they said, is gonna come out. And a few months start to pass by. And this thing, because it had to stay in place, they had to stitch it to my skin in order for it to be holding together. And I'm going to the hospital every other day to have them stitch it back because my skin is so tight, and the movements that I make, it rips apart the fucking stitches. So they're stitching this shit every other day, and it comes right after, like I get home, and it just falls apart.
Oh
So I'm like,
man.
Jesus fucking Christ, what the fuck is going on? And months start to pass by, and I talk to these people, and I'm like, dude, you told me it was only going to be a few months. Why am I still with this bag? Like, it's really super inconvenient. And now there's blood coming out of this thing. You need to do something, because even the pain is not going away. So they're like, okay, we're gonna send you to this specialist. Go and see her. And this I'm sorry to say, this fucking bitch. He's like, oh yeah, I think we're gonna take care of you. We're gonna have to do the operation, but we don't know how it's gonna work. But since I'm a specialist, I'm gonna do the operation myself. So I'm like, okay, cool, awesome. And they give me a date, because they don't want to touch me, man, because I'm such a high risk patient that they don't, anything that is unnecessary, they don't want to do. If they have to cut me open, they don't want to do that. But at this time, like, this bag is with me for more than that what they said, and it's still causing me pain, and the
Hmm.
stitches and everything's fucked up. So okay, fine. She says she's gonna do it, and she's brave enough to do it. I'm like, oh great. So give me the date. I show up. I'm in pre-op, and they're like, oh, Jonathan, I'm sorry to say this, but the doctor that was gonna do the thing, yeah, she's not gonna do it. She can't do it. I'm like, dude, I'm in pre-op. What the hell is going on? She said she was gonna do it. They're like, no, she's not gonna be. She's not here, and we can't find anyone that wants to do it. So I don't know what they did, and my friend Philip went to talk to somebody. I don't even remember what happened at that point, but they found a doctor that was willing to, open me up and take it off. So I'm pre-op. They found the doctor. They do the things. They sedate me, and they fucking did a huge operation, man. Like I was in and out. Like they were worried because I wasn't waking up after to remove that thing. But to be honest, to the doctor, he actually took it out and left me with a huge scar, of course. And they took out the bag afterwards. But I'm still left with a fucking hole right there. And after that, it's not healing, and nobody is able to do it to actually heal it. They're all coming up with explanations and in a way to actually, close it, and there's a hole right there, and it could cause infections and all the other stuff. So I finally found this nurse that was coming to do my dressings, and she sees the hole and she's like, "That's not getting cured." I'm like, "No, you need to do something." So she comes up with like a really old type of solution. She's like, "We're gonna put silver nitrate in there, and that's what's gonna do it." I'm like, "Silver nitrate? Like, is that a thing? I didn't even know what that is." And she's like, "Yeah, we're gonna put it on, and we're gonna leave it there for a day, and then we're gonna change it." And it turned out that was a good solution, man. It actually covered the hole, and it got cured and perfect, and things are start to move on again, and I'm happy, and the pain is gone and shit like that. But as I told you, my graft versus host disease, sometimes it just gets out of control, and I need medication for them to control it sometimes. And it was a few years after that, for some reason, I'm starting to not breathe as well as I possibly can. And this was a few, like, almost when COVID almost started. And there was something about my breathing that was going on. And one of my doctors recommended that I see a breathing specialist and a doctor for the lungs. And of course, they told me that my graft versus host disease was in my lungs, and they needed to, take it under control, and that just because of that, I needed to use oxygen. That it's in my best interest to start using oxygen whenever I go out and walk around. So they arranged everything, and they gave me like a small tank for me to carry around, and they told me to use it every time I go out to walk and do my exercises and shit. So I'm like, dude, again, I have to deal with all this shit, and like I'm already walking like with all my stuff, and this just because I'm better than before, but to another huge step back to start using oxygen, and again to have people look at you and look at you weird, and like I said, it was just at the time what COVID started, so you imagine a guy with oxygen and walking around when just COVID just started. So I'm like, fuck, again, man, I have another thing to have to deal with. And I started using the oxygen very, very, very often. And after, COVID happened, and they told me to go and get the vaccine and all that shit. And okay, fine, I got the vaccine. I was using this oxygen thing, and I started talking to my mom, and at this time I already have a stepdad. My mom found somebody, which is he makes her really happy. I'm really friends with him, and we're talking to both of us, all three of us, and we're like, yeah, you need to start walking out, man. Like, just leave the oxygen there for a little bit. Just walk with us. Maybe it'll feel better. So I'm like, okay, let's do that. And I do. And we went out for a walk, and this was on right after Christmas, the day after Christmas. So I'm like, okay, let's go for a walk. I started to feel bad again. And I'm like, Mom, I need to go back home. My heart, there's something going on. Like I feel like there's something happening in my heart. Like I feel like I'm gonna faint. So we come back home, we call an ambulance, and they take me to the hospital. But like I said, at this time is just when COVID started to break loose. The hospitals are like super loaded with patients, and all that shit happened, right? And I'm at the hospital in emergency. I'm still wearing oxygen because they recommended I use oxygen. And I'm waiting because there's huge lines, right, of patients and people there, and I'm waiting and I'm waiting, and they finally put me in a room, and I started to feel really, really bad. Like I thought that I was gonna have a heart attack. Like I felt like my heart was giving out, and I'm in the room and I'm losing my mind. I'm going crazy. Like I'm getting really nervous. I start to become really anxious, and I feel like, that's it. This is it. Finally, after all these years, this is finally gonna end me. Like this is it. So I took my phone and I called my family. I called my mom, and I just said, Mom, I'm just calling because I want to say bye, because I know this is it. I'm not gonna make it out of this. This time it feels like it is the end. So I just want to say bye. I love you very much. I tell Leo to please be with you after I leave. I love you both. Please be safe. And and I started saying incoherent stuff. So my mom rushed to the hospital apparently, and I called my other members of my family to say bye and to tell them that I love them. And they're freaking out. They're like, "What the hell is going on? Why are you in the hospital? What's going on?" And I'm losing my mind. I'm not in control of myself anymore. Like I'm losing consciousness. I'm coming out in and out of consciousness, and I'm going crazy. I'm really like all around the room, walking out, like freaking out, like almost like a panic attack, like exactly like a panic attack. And the doctors are like super careful at that time because of the COVID stuff. And they're like, you need to wear a gown and you need to wear a mask or I can't come in. And I'm trying to grab the gown and the mask, but my fingers gave out. I couldn't hold things anymore. So I'm screaming. I'm telling her, I can't do it. I can't do it. I don't know. And then I passed out. I passed out, and I was coming in and out of consciousness because my head, I'm telling myself, don't fall asleep. And as I'm losing consciousness, I thought this was gonna be it because I never had this feeling before, where everything started to feel like it's closing in, like you're there, and like let's just say you see the store closing down and they're closing everything down, and you see a window closing down. It felt just like that, like everything was just closing down and everything was getting smaller and smaller, and just have like a tunnel vision. And I'm like, this is it. Like this is it, right? Like I'm seeing things, and I'm like, okay, this is it. There's nothing else. Like I know I'm not gonna make it out of this. And in my head, I'm telling myself, rub your feet against your leg so you're awake. So I'm rubbing my feet against my leg, and I lost consciousness. I really did. I wasn't there anymore. And I woke up 2 days later, I think, and I'm in ICU, and my friends are there. My mom is there. I'm in intensive care unit, and I wake up and I'm like, hey everybody, like, what's going on? And they're like, dude, you have no idea what the hell we just went through. Like, man, the doctor told us that you were not gonna wake up. This guy is coercing my mother. This is Argentinian doctor apparently, is telling my mother to remove the oxygen because I'm gonna die. And this is in Canada. This is the first time that I ever heard it in Canada. This is not back home. Many times they told me back home that I wasn't gonna make it fine. Not here. Not here, not ever. Not even when the things were the worst. And this guy is telling my mom, please, lady, remove the oxygen because he's not gonna make it. And apparently I was kind of breathing badly, like kind of like that. And my mom was like, no, like he is there. But the guy is telling her, no, those are the last moments before he passes. Like the people that pass away always do those kind of noises. And my friend is telling me that my stepdad gave him like the booklet where he already paid for the funeral services.
Uh-huh.
And this doctor in emergency had to talk to my head of doctor, and he's telling them, no, like I already told you guys, like this guy's dead, like I'm not doing anything else. And a few weeks before, I spoke to my mom because, like I said, COVID is on, and I'm like, Mom, if it comes to all of this, I don't want to be given that intubation that they're doing to people, right? We all heard about that, right? That intubation that they're doing to patients that
Yeah.
can, yeah. So I'm like, Mom, if that happens to me and if I get to that point, please don't let them do that to me. And this guy is forcing that on my mom because he speaks Spanish, right? And he's telling my mom, you need to do the intubation. Let's do it. You need to do it. He's gonna die, but since my mom didn't want to do it, he's like, okay, fine. You're not gonna do it. He's gonna die. Take out his oxygen. Take it out. And my family, my friends are
Wow.
freaking out because they're like, dude, you're telling us that this is it. You're not doing anything else for him. You're just taking out the one thing that is apparently is keeping him up.
So the doctor just wanted to close the
He
book.
wanted to close the book. He didn't want to go through it, and I'm still out of consciousness. I'm just having dreams about Egypt and the pyramids for some reason. I don't know.
Oh, were
I
you?
was having dreams like that. I don't know.
Wow, that's it. I was gonna ask you, like I'm always curious about that because I used to read about stories, and then some people say, "Oh, it's just a figment of their imagination," but you never know what somebody is going through or what they're dealing with, or the visions that they're seeing. But during that time, yeah, I was gonna ask you, were you seeing any kind of visions, or were you having pictures running through images?
To me, it felt like I was in sand, like if you were to lie on the beach. So it felt like I was being moved by the sand, and I was seeing pictures of the pyramids of Egypt. First, I've never been there before in my life.
Wow, interesting. Yeah. But before that, did you ever have an interest for it or
I
anything? No?
love all that stuff. I read all about it, all the alien stuff, all the real stuff, everything about Egypt. I love that. To me, this was it. Like I'm no longer there. Like to me, that's it. And things are, I'm seeing the pyramids and things are looking weird. And the doctors is fighting with my family. So I never heard that before. Like I heard stories about other patients and other people fighting with doctors about not letting them, doing the best they can or doing some stuff. But no, like no, this guy is telling my mom, lady, remove this because there's no going back. And my friend told me that they also brought the priest to say the last rites or whatever the fuck they're called. So they called in the priest, and that guy told everybody to get out and just be with my mom. And that guy spoke Spanish, and this guy is like trying to tell my mom that this is it, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But apparently, one of my best friends, Dorian, she's telling my mom like, let's speak to God, let's pray, because I know he's gonna make it. I know he's gonna wake up. So let's do this. Let's pray. Let's get your faith back. So my mom is like, I don't believe in that anymore, but she saw that my friend had this feeling that she knows that I'm gonna make it. Apparently, she is the only person that believed at that point that I was gonna wake up. She's telling everybody, no, don't do anything because I know he's gonna wake up. And my best friend, my other best friend, Philip, the person I told you I met at BMT, apparently he was there, of course. He's always been there with me too. And he at that point has already slept on my home because it's been a day, and he's going to see how I'm doing and see if there's any progress, or they're not convincing my mom. So apparently he walks into the room and he screams out, "Jonathan, it's time to wake up. Let's go." And that's when I woke up. That's when I woke up. I woke up then and there. And I'm like, "Oh, what, mom, like, what?" Like, we were in the, like, in emergency, like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And she's like, "You're awake. You're awake." I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm here." It's like, "Oh," like, she's crying. She has no words. The nurses are running out because ICU is there's only like one person per room at that point because of COVID too. And I see all this, like, I don't know, it has to be like 10, 15 doctors and nurses coming in outside my room, just seeing me waking up. And they're like, "This guy's awake? How is this guy awake?" And they were like telling me, like, "Jonathan, are you okay? Are you okay? Like, what do you need?" I'm like, I'm hungry. Can I get a Coke? And can I get some Jello? Because I'm hungry as hell. And they rushed back to give me, like they gave me a Jello, and I grabbed the spoon, and I started shaking. And I'm like, "Hey, that didn't happen before." So they're like, "Oh shit." So they rushed me back to do, X-rays and ultrasounds to see if because I was out of oxygen. Like, this guy could have serious bad problems with afterwards, right? Because usually that's what happened to people. They don't have oxygen going through their head, and there's serious damage.
Yeah, even
There's brain
yeah,
damage. There's
brain
always
damage,
brain damage. There's
exactly.
always something that happens. And as soon as they saw that I was
The
shaking,
longer you're without oxygen, the more damage it's gonna.
exactly. So at that point, they're like, this guy's shaking. There's something going on. So they take me in, and they're like, "Okay, so there's nothing significant," because of course I must have something because of my old stuff, of my chemotherapy, radiation, of course. But they're like, "There's nothing to worry about. You're fine." And after a few days, I stopped. Like, the shaking is like stopped after a few hours after I ate. And on the same day, I woke up and I wanted to go out for a walk, and they're like, "You want to walk? What the hell is going on with you? You can't walk yet." I'm like, "Yeah, I can. I want to go out. I want to go out of my room. Like, my legs hurt." So they grab me a walker, and the nurse is walking with me, and she's talking to me because she wants to know everything about me. I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." And I tell her all about me. And as I'm walking, I'm passing through these nurses. And all these nurses are like, "The fucking guy is awake?" Like, I can see it in their face. Like, "This guy's awake? How the fuck did
Like
that
they seen a
happen?"
ghost. You've been
Like,
risen from the dead.
this guy was out. Like, the doctors, they already called the priest. And they never had that in Canada, never. Like, this never happened. And they're like, let's call it, this guy's awake. What the fuck is going on? And after a few days, they moved me out of ICU because I was already feeling better. And afterwards, I spoke to some of the doctors just to find out what the hell happened and why this happened. One of the explanations from one of the doctors is that oxygen is not in like a huge scale is not good for me, because apparently all the oxygen that I was taking in was getting turned into CO2, and CO2 can kill you. And apparently I got such a good amount of CO2 in my head that I passed out, and this is why it happened. So that was one of the explanations. The other explanation is, I heard it from 3 different doctors, that they're like, "It's the vaccine, man. It's the COVID vaccine." Because, like I told you, I got the vaccine in just a few
Hmm.
days.
And that was immediately. That was like right after you were dealing with everything. And I was thinking that in my head that there had to be some kind of complications with that, along with you already the condition that you were
Mm,
dealing with at that time.
Man, I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything. I don't believe in. I don't know. Maybe some of them are true, but I heard it from 3 different doctors. 3 different doctors just treated me at
The
that
same
time.
thing.
They're like, it probably was the COVID vaccine. I'm like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
But when you read the actual papers of everything that happened, it says that that happened because of complications from my graft versus host disease. But I know that
Of
isn't the
course, they
case.
won't mention it.
Yeah, they won't mention it, and that's not true. That I know for a fact that's not true, because my graft versus host disease has been in check for over 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like my graft versus host disease hasn't given me any problems since like 8 to 9 years. Like it's been so many years. Why, like suddenly, like there's just, I don't know if they ever wanna save their asses or whatever, but that's the main theory that they wrote on the actual record
Mm-hmm.
that says this
And
guy.
especially in Canada too, right? It was
Yeah.
mandatory almost, right? Where you had to, they wanted everybody to be vaccinated pretty much to just go
Oh,
about
right
your
away.
daily life, or if you're in school or whatever it
Oh,
was,
high risk
working.
patients like me. Oh, the doctors right away. You need to go get your vaccine like right away.
Just considering your medical history and introducing something that was still, it was a rushed procedure and they weren't too sure about it, but introducing that into your system, there's going to be some
I
complications.
would. I think so too,
You
man.
also have a few doctors that have been saying that as well. So,
And three different doctors at three different times. They're like, I think it's the vaccine, man.
golly, your body has been dragged through, not just your body, your entire being has been dragged through hell
Yeah,
and back.
this last one was really scary because, like I told you, man, it felt like everything was closing down. Like since I already said bye to all my family, I thought this was it for sure. I didn't think I was gonna come out of this one, for sure. I didn't think so. I'm like, this is it. Like my luck has taken me this far. It's not going any further.
This was, well, it wasn't really that long ago, but my,
No, not that long ago. It was
yeah,
like probably 2019.
but I mean, you pretty much, for the majority of your life, has spent that time in a hospital, in and out of the hospital.
In and out of hospitals, yeah. And of course, I have all the papers, all the pictures, everything.
Nowadays, like, how are you able to function, and whether it's holding a job or something, are your employers understanding of this and your situation, or do you have a hard time, trying to fit in when it comes to something like that, or you were going to college at one time? I don't know if you were able to finish your
Uh,
studies because of
because
the.
of everything that happened, I wasn't able. I did 2 years of I had 1 year left for my college thing, and I think I couldn't finish because of that.
Oh, okay.
Of course, I tried to look for employment, but it's difficult with a person like me, right? Because I don't know if I'm ever gonna be in the hospital again. I don't know if this is gonna happen. But nowadays, I do wanna go back to studying at least because things have you know come to a normal again. Like after that happened, like I stopped even using the oxygen. I went for some reason I didn't need it anymore. So many things that changed, and especially now, I think things have finally stayed in a normal state. Then I don't think anything else is gonna happen. At least
Hmm.
I don't. I hope so.
Yeah, I was also going to ask you that about your thoughts, or is it hard to get settled in and get comfortable again, because this is something that has been a pattern in your life, and I was going to ask you if this is something that's still in the back of your mind, and once it's hard to get settled and comfortable because you might fear the worst case scenario. How do you kind of keep focused and not to have that always affect? And it could get to the point, some if you let it. I don't know where you're at with it, but if you're thinking in that way, or if that is something that's affecting you to where it's hard to even enjoy the present because you're just worried about, my God, it's, this can happen again, and it will happen again. But it sounds like you're saying, I'm looking towards better days now.
For the first time in forever, it's gotten to the point where I think things have stabilized, and I don't if I take care of myself and if I do things correctly, and if I think things can even get better. Recently, I went to the hospital and they told me that they might have found a treatment for my skin condition. So I just got that news, so that's amazing.
That's good news.
But the first thing, yeah, the first thing is the doctor said is this drug is super expensive though. She's like, okay, that's the other thing that never have I ever spent any money for any of my treatments because Canada. That's why I'm always thankful to be here because they've covered everything. The government still supports me financially. I would forever be thankful to Canada and everybody here. And this is my home now, of course, but yeah, for now, and I'm mostly worried about my mom and see if she's okay. You know, now I don't. It's gotten to the point that I don't care about myself that much anymore, and it's mostly about other people in my life now. So I'm in that sense, things have stabilized.
How do you feel about just being alive nowadays? You feel a bit more optimistic,
You
or
know, psychologically, there's still that little part in my brain where I start doing something or planning something. Because that's the one thing. I don't plan for anything. I hate planning because, you know, I made so many plans before and they always crumble because I do something like because of stuff that happens. So I don't like to plan anything. So I just live day by day. You know, if I say, for example, it's for me, it's better that way because, you know, let's just say you want something to happen, something really positive, and things happened and it didn't happen, right? So you're left with that feeling of you know the regret or man disappointment. So I don't do that. I'd rather just have the surprise of, you know, if things work out, perfect. I'm super happy and great. And if things doesn't work out, then you know, okay, fine. But it's to me, it feels better to live day by day. It's you get more of a surprise, and you're more happy with the outcomes if they're positive. I think
Mhm.
that's me.
That makes total
But there's
sense.
always that little bug in my head where it's like something's gonna happen, man. So don't be too happy. Don't get too complacent.
Yeah. But if you take that approach the way that you're doing it, you're taking it day by day. You're just enjoying what you have, or you're working towards bettering your condition and your recovery and your health, stabilizing everything, and you're doing that in the moment, and with that, enjoying the people that you do have around you that stuck around you through thick and thin, your mother and friends and people that you met in the hospital that you still keep in touch with. Philip, you said his name was, and
Yeah, Philip and Dorian, those are my two friends that are still here with me and that been through with me all these years, and they've been through the best and the worst of my life. And I'm still so thankful to have them in there. And of course, my mom. There's no story if my mom is not there. She is the main actor of my story. She is to thank for everything, at least in my sense. She is my everything to me. And I would, you know, forever be grateful. I always, you know, say this prayer or thought that if anything were to happen to my mom, anything bad, just let it happen to me instead. Like, give me everything that could go wrong in my mom's life. Just give it to me and just let her be happy with her life. That's my way of thinking right now. But of course, I still want to do things. Of course, I still want to travel, go places.
hmm
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to things a little.
yeah, that's right. It was cool the way this worked out because we talked a little bit offline before we started, before we set something up. But I knew a little bit of your story and some of the things that you had went through, and then you had said that you were interested in talking about your story because it was something that you hadn't really shared too much with people. You had your reasons for it, but there probably was a few things you had on mine, right? And coming out and just sharing your experience and to be able to talk about it on the show.
Yeah, my friend Philip always told me, just write your everyday life. Just write it, and when eventually we can make it a book. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure, man. I'm not. I don't think it's that interesting. But lately when I talked to you, I was looking for an outlet to put my story out there. If it could help somebody, if it's an interesting to listen to, then that's great. I thought that maybe my story deserved to be known at least a little bit, like somebody needed to hear it, or maybe if you're in a really bad spot right now, and that's always my thought. Just think that somebody is having a worse time than you. There's always somebody with something that is worse, 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 worse than you. And even in my shoes, I know there's people that had it way worse than me. People that are no longer here, and that I pray for their souls. And you just think about that. If you're stuck in a place, just think it over a little bit more, and think about things, and think that there's always having a worse time than you. And I'm sure you'll feel a little bit better. Maybe not completely, but it'll help you a little bit. I think so.
That little bit can spark something to where you're building off of, and then it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where it's really giving you like the fuel you need to do things that you thought maybe weren't going to be possible anymore. Like I'm sure for you at one point, well, that last one seemed like you already were saying your final goodbyes, and so now fast forward to where you are, and you're in a better place than where you were. And also the thought you said you don't want to think too far ahead because there's always been something that seemed to pull me back down, but still enjoying the day, enjoying the relationships that you do have. And then even with the thought, like you said, there is even a promise inside or something in you that says, I would like to travel. I would like to do other things. And so, yeah, that's just that's great to hear. And that you also, you came out alive and you still have that little spark in you. It's not
Oh, for sure,
completely
man.
gone.
It's not completely gone. You're right. And the people that are next to me are to blame. They're the ones.
It's like if it wasn't for you, I would have went to Egypt and found those pyramids.
I probably would have been buried there already, man.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
with the bandages and everything in the wounds, and when you were when the skin was tearing and ripping the way that you were. I mean, I was picturing a mummy.
it's basically that. I was. Only my face was the one that wasn't. Even I had a little bit on my cheeks actually, but most of my body was just like you would picture a mummy. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I will say that. Yeah, and my friend Philip, he's kept all the pictures, man. I recently saw them. Like I didn't know he had a bunch of them, and I'm like, dude, we came through so much. Like, wow, that's since I was a fucking teenager. It's incredible that we're here. And the one thing that I can say to everybody that's been with me, and I try to tell them every day, or at least whenever we meet and talk, I just tell them that you love them. Take the time. Don't hold grudges. Just be open about yourself. And that's the thing that I do all the time. I try to tell them how much I love them, just in case you never see them again or something happens. I just wanted them to know that I love them to the max. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. I know, super cliche to say, but it is. It is what it is. For me, at least, it is like that. If it wasn't for my mom, Dorian, Philip, Dorian, even now my stepdad, Leo, if it wasn't for all of them, it would have been way, way worse, or things would have finished. Everything would have been, it would have ended. And like I tell my little cousins sometimes, like I tell them, if you have opportunities, don't let them go by. If you can do something, if you really want to do something, just do it. Don't let time pass you by. Don't let it affect you. Even if the outcome isn't what you expected, still do it, man. Because you don't know what thing's gonna happen next. You never know. So just enjoy it. If you want to do it, really, really, really do it. And yeah, keep loving your family, yourself. Give yourself some credit sometimes. You need that for sure. I'm sure I given myself some credit sometimes, even though I'm
Oh yeah, you got to give yourself all the credit.
it's my mom mostly, but yeah, I do sometimes think it's I've been through a lot, and that's why I wanted to, even if it's a little selfish of me, and tell my story and for some people to listen to it.
Yeah, as you should, as you should. Pat yourself on the back and think highly of yourself, even sometimes if it's hard. Because yeah, you did have a lot of support. Of course, you had a also professionals and specialists that looked over you in the hospital, but then also you dealt with it physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, in every other way. But still here and willing to talk about it and share it, even if it just helps one person. You said that would make you a happy man. So, I'm grateful that I was able to connect with you and hear this. Thank you again for like opening yourself up and being transparent and sharing some details about your life that are sensitive and that are personal. I really do appreciate that. And man, Jonathan, if you would like to leave off with like any other words, or you'd like to say a few things before we wrap this thing up, feel free.
Yeah, man, more than anything, thank you for having me on. It's been great meeting you. Like, thank you for letting me say my things. Just I would like to the people that listen to this, like I told them, please, if you have something to do, if you want to do something, do it before it's too late. Love all your family members, everybody that supports you. Let them know how thankful you are, and enjoy your life to your fullest, really. And if my mom listens to this sometimes, or my friends, I'd like to tell them that I love them very, very much. To thank them that they're still here with me. They're still fighting here with me. And anybody that listens to this, if it helps you out in any way, I'm glad. I hope it does help you out, even if it's listening to me and my stupid shit. But if it helps in some way, I'm happy. I'm glad. I'm really glad. And thank you. I'm really glad that I got to meet you.
Likewise, and I certainly, from the bottom of my heart, wish you all the best in upcoming years.
Thank you. Thank you very much, man. I hope so. Let's hope that things just stay stable and that I can find some hope and a new treatment. And yeah, let's hope things get a lot better than they are right now.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch.
Definitely, man. And thank you again. Thank you.
That's a warrior right there. And as much as he says, I don't like to give myself too much credit. I have some beautiful people behind me who held me up when I was weak. Their spirit, their thoughts, their prayers, their love was what got me through this. His mother being one of them. A strong, loving mother who he says means the world to him. How tight of a relationship that was. They had each other. If they didn't have nothing else, moving into a foreign land, not understanding the language, not understanding the system, they had each other. Leaving their country with pretty much just the clothes on their back to try to seek some kind of assistance. He was dying on more than one occasion. Even at one point dying and being brought back to life. So as much as he gives the praise and the honor to those behind him and those around him still in his life through thick and thin, we acknowledge that, yes, for sure. That's a beautiful thing. We need that type of support. But this show also is about highlighting and celebrating the lives of those people who have been through it. They've been through the mud, and Jonathan has been through hell and back. Body, mind, and soul, spirit, everything. The anguish, the torment, the suffering, the torture, the agony of his skin ripping and tearing apart. He had to feel that on his body. But Jonathan, you managed to hold on to whatever little hope inside of you that thought of your mother was enough for you to hold on and not give up the ghost. How how many times you were moving in a better direction, like the hospital and the visits and the surgeries and the medications and the chemotherapy was all behind you for things to just suddenly fall from around you once again. The rug being pulled from underneath you once again. Soon as you start moving forward, you're getting knocked backward again. And the last time was almost for good. But listen to him towards the end say he's still hopeful. Maybe not planning too much in the future. You can't blame him for that, but he's hopeful for the opportunity to being alive for one, but also that maybe in the future, hey, I might be able to enjoy traveling, maybe get back into my studies or to pick up hobbies or things that make him happy. He has his mother. He has his friends, some good friends. One of his friends from being in the hospital. And of 10 people going through that bone marrow transplant at the time when he went, only 2 are still alive. And Jonathan, for as much as you saying you're not too fond of giving yourself the credit, we're going to celebrate and big up your spirit, your resilient spirit today, because you are a giant amongst us. The courage to keep pushing on and go through the things that you have been through. And also the courage that it took for you to get on here and to open up yourself and speak about a lot of things that you said for some time you were ashamed to talk about. Losing all your body mass, your muscle tissue, your hair falling apart, your body ripping open, gum tissues bleeding. I mean, this is torment, this is torture, but you're still here, still hopeful. And like you said, I believe that the worst is now behind me. And by you sharing your story, I believe everybody listening right now is going to have you in mind. So even from complete strangers, people will have you in their thoughts. They might have you in their prayers. I know you'll be in mine. I think it's safe to say that there is a power when people are in agreement in something. And when there's more than one person putting their mind, their thoughts, their meditations, their prayers, whatever it may be, in one direction, in unison to one person, one goal, that behind it, there's some kind of creative, loving, and all-powerful force that can move in a direction and bring some positive reinforcement into somebody's life or into someone's situation. So thank you, Jonathan, for taking time out of your day to share something that is very personal, that is very sensitive with you, in the hopes that maybe it can reach one person. Well, I can say after speaking with you and listening to your story and then running it back to listen to it one more time, that it's already reached one person and hit somebody, which was me. So I hope you all found something of value in this story and listening to Jonathan share some of his experience with us. And let us also be reminded, like he said, cherish those that we have in our lives. Let's honor them. Let's be thankful for them. Let's enjoy each other's company while we have each other around. We can take each other for granted. I'm guilty of it. To those that you love, there's nothing wrong with telling them that you love them, why you love them, why you're thankful and grateful for them. If you guys found value in the show and if anything Jonathan said resonated with you, you can always share your thoughts and give some feedback. You can even reach out to him through email. You'll find his information in the description box. Appreciate you all. You can always check out the website to listen to past shows, listen to past stories. And there also you can leave a comment and share your thoughts. You can also check us out on YouTube, where I'm piecing together smaller, condensed versions of these long-form conversations that you find on the show and that you find on the website and whichever platform that you plug into and listen to. So you can also check out the channel there and share your thoughts and feedback. And completely free of charge, you can give it a like. You can also give it a review. You can give it a rating if you listen to it on Spotify, Deezer, whichever platform you listen to it on. Let me know how you listen to the show. Let me know what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show, because we're trying to continue to build and create something of substance here. Of course, the main thing is the stories and the giants that are amongst us. So with all that being said, you guys enjoy the rest of your week. And before things wind down over here, if you would like to be a part of the show and share your story, or even a story of someone in your life that has impacted you in a positive way, you can always reach out to me via email. I'd be happy to connect. Until next time, and very soon, peace.
Looking for a sign to know I'm on the right road. Ain't seen no sign, seen